Chapter 188. Duanmu shook his head and looked at me. That won't be necessary. If we bring our buddies in, Li Hui will definitely get suspicious. After all, everyone in the circle knows each other. Even if they don't know each other, they should at least look familiar. If you bring your buddies in and she doesn't recognize them, then there will definitely be problems. Let's just go with the few of us. As for the invitation, you don't have to worry. Someone at the entrance will give it to me, but you'll need to wear formal attire. Duanmu looked at the time. It's not convenient to buy formal attire right now. I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Xiaokei, how about I go home and get it? I have a few sets at home. Duanmu shook his head and looked at me. He gently caressed my face and said, "That won't do. Those designs are all old. I don't want you to wear an old gown tomorrow. I don't want others to look at you with mocking eyes. I definitely won't allow that. How about this? We'll go buy it tomorrow morning. Wait for me to contact someone first." Duanmu sat on the sofa and hugged me. He picked up his phone and fiddled with it for a while. Then he looked at me and said, "Okay, it's done." I looked at him with a puzzled expression. "What's done? Who did you contact?" "That's a secret. I'll tell you tomorrow. Let's go. It's time to go to bed with me. I still want to sleep naked." Duanmu looked at me with a perverted smile. That expression made me want to punch him. I overruled. Before I could retort, Duanmu interrupted me. He looked at me and softly said, "Be good. This is a rare opportunity. You have to listen to me today. Let's go upstairs." Before I could react, Duanmu picked me up and carried me upstairs. That night, the two of us slept soundly. Duanmu didn't do anything to me. He just stripped me naked and hugged me to sleep the whole night. Although I was speechless at his strange fetish, I still cherished the rare chance to spend time alone with Duanmu Quebec. I had already expressed my true feelings to him, and he knew my feelings. I didn't want to hide anything from him. Although I still couldn't calm my heart down to accept him, I believed that time was the best medicine to heal all wounds. After a long time, everything would be fine. The next morning, I woke up early. Duanmu hadn't woken up yet. I gently kissed him on the cheek. He gently rubbed his eyes, but he still didn't wake up. That lazy pig. I quietly got up and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. My heart was still very complicated. After a week after the Red Baron was discharged from the hospital, I might have to prepare to go abroad. At that time, I didn't know when I would be able to return to China. I didn't know how many more times I could spend alone with Duanmu Quebec. At least before the baby was born, I could let her have more contact with her biological father. Speaking of which, it was strange. The baby had been very quiet for the past 2 days and didn't have much of a reaction. It seemed that he also knew that Duanmu was his biological father. Blood relations were really strange things. While I was concentrating on preparing breakfast in the kitchen, someone suddenly hugged me from behind. I was startled. Duanmu gently kissed my neck from behind. I was startled. Duanmu said softly, "What are you doing, darling?" My face turned red. I whispered to Duanmu, "I'm making breakfast. It's almost done. You should go and wash up." Duanmu turned me around and gently kissed my forehead. Then he went to wash up. I put the breakfast on the dining table. Duanmu also finished washing up. The two of us had a simple bite. Before I could clean up the kitchen, Duanmu pulled me out of the villa. He said that he would take me to buy a dress. I looked at myself carefully. I was still wearing yesterday's clothes. They were wrinkled and covered in dust. Duanmu seemed to see my dilemma. Duanmu drove the car and smiled at me. "Don't worry. I'll buy you a normal dress." I reached into my pocket. Because I was in a hurry, I only brought my phone. I didn't even bring my bag. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed. I looked at Duanmu and said in a low voice, "I forgot my backpack. The money is in my bag." Duanmu looked at me and said with a smile, "Idiot, you came out with me to shop. How could I let you spend money?" "Don't worry, I brought it. Also, I have a present for you later." I looked at Duanmu with a puzzled face. What gift? I asked in a low voice. Duanmu-ke said in a low voice, you'll know when the time comes. Looking at Duanmu-ke's mysterious face, I didn't want to ask anymore. I just sat quietly in the front passenger seat. When we arrived at the shopping center, Duanmu-ke held my hand and walked inside. After all, this was a Kurosawa place, and the news of our divorce wasn't a secret. When we arrived at the shopping center, everyone looked at me with a surprised expression. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed and lowered my head. Duanmu-ke didn't shy away. He put his arm around my shoulder and said in a low voice, don't be afraid. Let them talk about it. You just need to know how I feel about you. I understood what he meant and nodded. Duanmu-ke took me to a clothing store that I often went to. The clerk recognized me immediately. Since she had been here many times, she knew what kind of style I liked. Duanmu-ke followed the clerk's recommendation and helped me choose 2 sets of clothes that I usually wore. His taste wasn't bad. They were all styles that I liked. I didn't refuse and obediently changed into them as he asked. After changing, I came out of the dressing room and saw Duanmu-ke sitting in the lounge. I walked over to him. At this time, the clerk also came over. She looked at Duanmu-ke and said in a low voice, young Master Duanmu, the designer Tony just called. He said that he will be in the store soon. Okay, I know. Did he bring the things I asked him to bring? Duanmu-ke asked in a low voice. He said that he brought them. That's good. Let's wait for him. Duanmu-ke looked at me and smiled. I sat next to him and asked in a low voice, who is Tony? You asked him to bring you something. What is it? Duanmu-ke put his arm around my shoulder and said in a low voice, you'll know when he comes. Don't worry. Duanmu-ke's intimate behavior towards me was seen by everyone in the store. I also saw a few people whispering to each other. I was afraid that it would affect Duanmu-ke's reputation. I said in a low voice, Xiaoke, let me go. There are so many people here. It won't be good if they see us. After all, we are divorced. Chapter 189. Duanmu-ke didn't let go of my hand. He looked at me and said, what are you afraid of? We're already divorced. You won't allow us to date. Don't think about other messy things. Tony will be here soon. I didn't know what to say. It seemed that Tony was really mysterious. Since Duanmu-ke asked me to wait, I could only wait. After a while, a fashionably dressed man walked in. He saw Duanmu-ke at first glance and walked straight to him. He smiled and greeted Duanmu-Quebec. Hi, young Master Quebec, sorry I'm late. Duanmu-ke stood up and I followed him. Duanmu-ke smiled and looked at him. Not at all. Long time no see, Tony. Let me introduce you. This is Cold Glaze. Duanmu-ke introduced me to Tony. I looked at Tony and nodded with a smile. Hello. Tony also looked at me and smiled. He looked at Duanmu-ke and said, the figure you told me about is really just right. Miss Lung will definitely be able to wear the gown. Let her try it on. Then, Tony took out a box from behind him. The packaging was very exquisite. He handed it to Duanmu-ke and opened it. The moment I opened it, I was stunned. An exquisite white gown lay in the box. The quality was very good. I looked at Duanmu-ke in surprise. He smiled and looked at me. He gently stroked my head and said, go and try it on. If it doesn't fit, Tony is here. He can change it for you. I nodded and carried the gown into the changing room. After closing the door, I opened the gown and found that it was really beautiful. The style was definitely very novel. It was different from the ordinary gowns I usually saw. The style was exactly what I liked. It seemed that Duanmu-ke understood me very well. I put on the gown and it fit me very well. Since there was no mirror in the changing room, I walked out after putting it on. When I stood in front of Duanmu-ke, everyone present was shocked. Tony looked at me and shouted, perfect. It's too perfect. I think only Miss Lung can wear this gown. It's practically made for her. Everyone, including the customers in the store and the staff in the store, stood there and looked at me in shock. Duanmu-ke looked at me and smiled. He reached out his hand and knelt in front of me. He looked at me and said softly, "Miss, can I hold your hand?" I looked at him and smiled. I reached out my hand to hold Duanmukei's hand. He stood up and held me tightly in his arms. He gently stroked my face and looked at me. He said, "Xiaoli, you are so beautiful. I knew that Tony's gown would suit you, but I didn't know that you would look so beautiful in it. What should I do? I've been poisoned by you. Hurry up and treat me." Then Duanmukei kissed me deeply on the lips. I blushed. Duanmukei hugged me. I leaned into his arms and looked at Duanmukei embarrassedly. I said softly, "Don't be like this. Everyone is watching. Let go of me first." Duanmukei didn't let go of me. He gently hugged my waist and then whispered into my ear, "What are you afraid of? I like you. It's not like you don't know that. Be good, let me hug you for a while." Black lines appeared on my face as I leaned into Duanmukei's embrace and helplessly rolled my eyes. After a while, Duanmukei let go of me. He looked at Tony and smiled. "Tony, thank you. I am very satisfied. Thank you for helping me solve my urgent problem." Tony smiled and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "It's okay. It's what I should do. Is there anything you need to change in the gown?" I let go of Duanmukei and walked in front of the full-length mirror. I looked at myself. It really looked good. I looked at Tony and said, "It's perfect. There's no need to change it." Duanmukei smiled and looked at Tony. "If Xiaoli says there's no need to change it, then there's no need to change it." Duanmukei looked down at his watch. "It's almost time. We should go to the press conference." We said goodbye to Tony and headed to the press conference. Duanmukei drove the car. I put on the new gown and sat in the front passenger seat. In order to match the gown, Duanmukei had specially picked out a handbag for me. The handbag wasn't cheap and it really matched the gown. I fiddled with the handbag. Duanmukei turned to look at me and said softly, "What's wrong? You don't like this handbag? There's still time. Why don't we go somewhere else and pick one for you?" I shook my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "No, I really like this handbag. It matches the gown very well. But how do you know this designer named Tony?" Duanmukei smiled and said, "You mean him? He's a friend of mine, and he's also a fashion designer. Although he's not as famous as Xinyao, he mainly designs women's clothing, and his style is very unique. I wanted to buy a gown for you, but the gowns on the market were too ordinary and couldn't bring out your aura." I thought of him, and when I talked to him yesterday, he immediately agreed. He said he had just designed a gown, but it wasn't on the market yet. I said I wanted to buy it, and he said he would give it to me as a gift. I was very surprised at the time, but I didn't know why, so I told him I would give it to him later. Then he asked me if I wanted to see a woman's figure in the gown. I told him then, and he said he wanted to make some changes to the gown. I didn't think much of it at the time, but he made the changes just right. He really is a famous designer. "You still remember my size?" I looked at Duanmukei in surprise. I couldn't believe it. Duanmukei looked at me and smiled. "Of course, I don't know anything about you." I blushed. I didn't know why, but when I heard Duanmukei say that, I felt a little perverted. Duanmukei reached out and stroked my hair. "All right, little fool, don't think too much. You don't have a suitable hairstyle for such a beautiful gown. When we get there, I'll do it for you. You know how to do hairstyles." I looked at Duanmukei in surprise, my face full of disbelief. I had been with him for a long time, but I didn't know he had so many skills. When we arrived near the press conference, I was about to get out of the car when Duanmukei pulled me back. He turned my back to him and whispered, "Come on, hurry up. I'll do your hair first." Duanmukei began to play with my hair. His movements were very skillful. I took out my phone from my bag and turned it to selfie mode. I looked at myself in the mirror. Duanmukei was carefully doing my hair. It was very beautiful. I looked at him through the phone. He looked so handsome when he was serious. I put down the phone and whispered to Duanmukei, "I didn't expect you to be so amazing." Chapter 190. After a while, Duanmukei was done. I picked up my phone and looked at it again. It really was a perfect hairstyle. It didn't lose out to my usual hairstylist. I was very satisfied. I turned to look at Duanmu and said softly, "Thank you. I'm very satisfied." Duanmu reached out and played with the hair on my head. He looked at me and said softly, "Not bad, very beautiful. It's about time, let's go in." I just saw Su Rue at the door. He just went in with Xin Yao. "Let's go in too. The person who wants to give me the ticket is also at the door. Let's go in." I nodded and followed Duanmu out of the car. When we reached the entrance, a man appeared and handed Duanmu 2 tickets. Duanmu looked at me and said, "Let's go in." I was stunned. I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. I want to give Xiaohao a call first. I want to tell him and ask him about the Red Baron. Duanmu thought for a moment and nodded. I walked to the side and dialed Han Hao's number. "Xiaohao, it's Xiaoli. Thank you for your hard work. How's the Red Baron?" "The Red Baron is fine. She's recovering well. You don't need to worry. How are you? Are you feeling better?" "I'm fine. I have something to tell you. Xin Yao's company is launching a new product today. The person who attacked Xin Yao might appear today. I'm worried about Xin Yao. Xiao Ke and I came here. We might not be able to go to the hospital until later. Thank you for your hard work. It's okay. Be careful. You must take care of yourself. Don't rush into things on your own. Okay, I'm going to take the Red Baron for a checkup. We'll talk again when you're done." Then he hung up the phone. I walked back to Duanmu and looked at him with a smile. Duanmu looked at me with a smile. Then he held my hand and walked into the launch. As soon as we entered the venue, we bumped into Xin Yao and Suri. Xin Yao saw me smiling and threw herself at me. I didn't have time to defend myself. She jumped into my arms and rubbed against my chest. She smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, you're here. Why did you bring my brother?" "I didn't miss him. I missed you." I had long been accustomed to Xin Yao's tormenting manner, so I couldn't use a fierce attitude toward her. I had to coax her. I gently patted Xin Yao's back and said softly, "Little Xin Yao, quickly get up, there are so many people here. And today is your new product. You have to maintain your image. If you want to get tired of it, wait until the 2 of us get tired of it at home. All right?" Xin Yao stood up from my arms. She looked at me and nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, I'll listen to you. Sister-in-law, I'll arrange your and my brother's seats." I pulled Suri over and asked softly, "How is it? Has everything been arranged?" Suri nodded. He looked at me and Duanmu and said, "Everything has been arranged. Outside the venue are our brothers. Inside the venue, I've also arranged for a few of our people to disguise themselves as staff members. However, we still haven't seen Li Hui. I don't know what she's going to do next. It feels like we're in the dark while she's in the light. We're at a disadvantage. I really don't know what she's going to do." I thought for a moment and glanced at the venue. I asked Xin Yao, "Little Xin Yao, have you arranged your seat?" "Yes, I've arranged it. It's arranged in the first row. It's already arranged. Our seats are installed by the company, so I don't need to worry about it. I've also arranged your seats. It's just behind me. I specifically requested it from the company, and they gave me face and readily agreed." "Oh, right, sister-in-law. Why do you suddenly want to ask this?" Xin Yao asked with a puzzled face. I turned to look at Duanmu, Quebec. He obviously understood my thoughts. Duanmu looked at Xin Yao and patted her shoulder. "Xin Yao, listen to your sister-in-law. Later, you'll change seats with someone else. We'll sit behind your original seat. But don't tell anyone why you're changing seats." "Oh, right. Why hasn't that woman come yet? Is she not coming, or is she not coming at all? So she arranged for someone else to assassinate you?" "She's here." Xin Yao looked at the entrance, and we followed her gaze. A group of people walked in from the entrance. Among the group of people in black, there was a small figure. She wore a black dress and held an exquisite bag in her hand. Her hair was tied up in curls, and from her sharp eyes, I could tell she wasn't someone easy to deal with. I looked at her and whispered to Xin Yao, "Is she Li Hui?" Xin Yao sneered and said disdainfully, "That's her. Look at her. She's obviously been removed from the main designer's list. This time, only a few outfits were designed by her. The rest were designed by me and other designers. Look at her entrance. She's as ostentatious as a celebrity. She really thinks she's someone important." While we were talking, Li Hui bypassed the crowd and walked toward us. She stopped in front of Xin Yao and looked at us. Then she looked at Xin Yao and said, "Long time no see, Duanmu Xin Yao. These are your friends, right? Have you arranged a seat? If not, I'll find someone to do it for you." Xin Yao looked a little angry. Suri interrupted and smiled at Li Hui. "No, thank you. We already have a seat." Li Hui turned her head and looked at Su Rui. She smiled and reached out her hand in front of Su Rui. "Hello, handsome. My name is Li Hui. I see that you have a good figure. Do you want to be my model?" she said softly. Xin Yao couldn't hold it in anymore. She turned and shook off Li Hui's hand. She looked at Li Hui and smiled. "Put away your intentions. You actually found my man to be your model. It's hard to be quick. My boyfriend is such an excellent model. It's inevitable that he would be chosen by a famous designer." Li Hui smiled and withdrew her hand. She looked at Xin Yao and said, "So he's your boyfriend. He really suits you. You guys talk. I'm going to take a seat." Then she smiled evilly and turned to leave. Looking at Li Hui's figure, Xin Yao was so angry that she stomped her feet. She looked at Li Hui's figure and said very angrily, "Too infuriating. Look at her arrogant appearance. It's really disgusting." Before, people in the company said that she had an unusual relationship with the company's vice president. I didn't take it seriously. Now, she actually hooked up with Su Rui. She's too cheap. She's the second bitch I know. Suri gently patted Xin Yao's shoulder. "Honey, don't be angry. She'll be even more proud of you," he said softly. Chapter 191. Xin Yao looked at Li Hui, who had already taken her seat. She sneered and said, "I won't let that woman have her way. Dear guests and friends, please take your seats. Our press conference is about to begin." The host's voice came from the broadcast. It seemed the press conference was about to begin. I looked at Xin Yao and patted her shoulder. She looked at me and nodded. The few of us walked to our assigned seats. Xin Yao was very obedient. She changed seats with the girl in the corner. I deliberately observed Li Hui's expression. She slightly furrowed her brows. If I guessed correctly, she might really want to frame Xin Yao today. Duanmu Ke sat next to me. I whispered in his ear, "Xiao Ke, I just saw Li Hui furrow her brows. I think she might really be planning something today. You should be careful. Although Xin Yao isn't sitting in her original seat, I'm afraid she might have a backup plan. If possible, when the designer comes on stage, you should take Xin Yao away." Duanmu Ke looked at me. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Suri and I will stay. You and Xin Yao go first. It's settled. I'm still worried about you staying here." Looking at Duanmu Ke's smiling face, I didn't have any reason to refuse. Duanmu Ke tightly hugged my shoulder, and my face flushed. At this time, Suri sent me a message. I stole a glance at Duanmu Quebec. He was looking at the stage and wasn't looking at me. I quickly picked up my phone to check Suri's message. After reading it, I smiled. Suri had sent me a message. "Looking at you and Duanmu Ke together, I think you two are a good match. If possible, stay together and don't miss out on each other." I turned my head to look at Suri. He was also looking at Xin Yao. It seemed that he was also worried. Not long after we sat down, the fashion show officially began. Just like other fashion shows, the models walked the runway. I turned my head to look at Xin Yao. She was chatting enthusiastically with her colleagues. It seemed that she was fine, but I couldn't relax too much. Throughout the entire show, my focus was not on the performance. After the show, it was time for all the fashion designers to go up on stage to give their thanks. Xin Yao also had to go up on stage. Moreover, as the finale, she had to say a few words. As long as I could endure until she finished speaking and got off the stage, I could safely bring her home. I watched all the designers go up on stage. Li Hui also went up on stage. Suddenly, I had a very bad premonition. I was a little worried and tightly rubbed my hands. Duan Muke seemed to see my nervousness. He reached out and tightly held my hands. He looked at me and softly said, "Don't worry, let's see the situation first." At this time, Suri looked at me and said, "Miss, I'm going to the side stage to take a look. I'm a little worried." I nodded. It seemed that Suri had the same idea as me. He was also worried that Li Hui would do something to the stage. After all the designers were on stage, the company's leaders went on stage to give a speech. It was all the old-fashioned speech. Then it was Xin Yao's turn. We heard the host say, "Next, let's welcome the famous international designer, Miss Duanmu Xin Yao, to give a speech." The audience applauded. Xin Yao took a step forward. Standing under the spotlight, she looked very elegant. After the applause subsided, Xin Yao began to give her speech. Her speech sounded very relaxed, but my heart was still in my throat. I really didn't know what Li Hui would do. Would she stab Xin Yao in the back? I didn't think so. There were so many people here. If she did that, she would be telling everyone that she was a murderer. According to Xin Yao's description, Li Hui should be a meticulous person. She wouldn't do something so brazen. I shook my head helplessly. Suddenly, my eyes drifted upward. I saw the chandelier in the middle of the stage swaying. I looked carefully. Because there were so many people in the venue, the room was ventilated. The wind blew against the chandelier. It was obvious that it was swaying. I looked at Xin Yao. She was standing right under the chandelier. I suddenly became nervous. I stood up and looked at the chandelier. It was blowing even harder. Duan Muke saw me stand up. He grabbed my arm and asked, "Xiaoli, what's wrong? Why are you standing up?" I pointed at the chandelier. I looked at Duan Muke and didn't dare to speak too loudly. I was afraid that I would disturb the others. I looked at Duan Muke and said, "Xiaoke, look. The chandelier is swaying. Xin Yao is in danger." It was too late. As soon as I finished speaking, I looked again. The chandelier had already fallen. I shouted, "Xin Yao, it's dangerous." Just as the chandelier was about to hit Xin Yao, Suri suddenly rushed to the stage. He pushed Xin Yao away, and the chandelier fell on Suri. "Suri!" I shouted and ran to the stage. Xin Yao was scared out of her wits. The scene was in chaos, and most of the designers on the stage had run away. I glanced around. Li Hui was still standing there, looking at us with an expressionless face. However, I couldn't care less. I turned around and looked at Suri. The chandelier had broken into pieces, and Suri's forehead was bleeding. He fell to the ground, but he was still conscious. I quickly took out a tissue from my bag to stop the bleeding. Xin Yao also ran to Suri. She hugged him tightly and cried to Suri, "Suri, what happened to you? Why are you so stupid? It's all my fault." Xin Yao suddenly became angry. She put down Suri and walked to Li Hui. She reached out her hand and slapped Li Hui's face. Xin Yao shouted, "Li Hui, did you do this? Why are you being so aggressive? What did I do to harm you?" Li Hui sneered and looked at Xin Yao. "What are you talking about? The chandelier falling wasn't something I could control. Why do you think I did it?" I handed Suri to Duan Muke and ran to Xin Yao. I hugged her tightly and pulled her back. I whispered to Xin Yao, "Don't be so serious with her at this time. We don't have any evidence to prove that she did it. We'll talk about it later. Let's take a look at Suri first. I don't know if he's seriously injured or not. Please take a look at him." I found an excuse to comfort Xin Yao. I was afraid that she would really be angry and do something to Li Hui. If that happened, Li Hui would be even more pleased. Sure enough, it worked. Xin Yao immediately thought of Suri. She ran to Suri and hugged him tightly. She cried and said, "Suri, how are you? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's all because of me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have been in danger again and again." Chapter 192. Suri was still conscious. He shook his head and looked at Xinyao. I'm fine. Xinyao, you should leave this place. I don't know what Li Hui is going to do to you. You should leave quickly. It's too dangerous here. I turned to look at Li Hui. She wasn't there anymore. I suddenly realized the severity of the situation. I looked at Xinyao and said, Xinyao, take Suri to the hospital. I'm going to ask Li Hui. Then, I stood up and ran to the back of the stage. I guessed that Li Hui had left to go behind the scenes. I followed my train of thought. If Li Hui was the one who did it, she should be in the control room of the chandelier. I walked to the computer room. I vaguely heard someone talking. Was it really Li Hui? I was about to go closer to listen when someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I was scared and almost screamed, but that person covered my mouth. While I was stunned, the person whispered to me, Don't be afraid. It's me. I saw that it was Duanmu, Quebec. He signaled me not to speak. I nodded and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. He said in a low voice, I saw you coming, so I followed. You always like to run around. It's too dangerous for you to be alone. I whispered in Duanmuke's ear, Lower your voice. I heard someone talking inside. I guess it's Li Hui. Don't talk. Let's listen and see what they're talking about. Duanmuke nodded. Duanmuke and I quietly walked to the door of the computer room. Sure enough, we heard two people talking inside. If I guessed right, it should be Li Hui. But I didn't know who the other person was. I thought for a moment, then took out my phone and turned on the recording mode. Li Hui's voice came from inside. She said, What are you doing? Why did the chandelier fall more than a minute later than we expected? It didn't hit her, but it hit her man. But what's the use? I want her life, not her man's. How am I supposed to estimate when the chandelier will fall? Besides, why do you want to kill her? What's your goal? Li Hui was talking to another man. You don't have to worry about that. As long as she's in the same company as me, neither of us will have a good day. Let's not talk about other things for now. Hurry up and pack up. Based on Xinyao's character, she'll definitely come back to investigate. Don't let her find out that you have any evidence. If I can't live well, you can't live well either. Li Hui's words clearly carried a threat. I really don't want to get involved in your fight. Whatever you do to her in the future, don't drag me into it. I also don't want to work for you anymore. I promise this time I'll clean up the evidence. I hope you'll keep your promise and let my wife and child go. It turned out that Li Hui had taken this man's family hostage. Let you go? You might be thinking too much. Didn't you tell me that you like Duanmu Xinyao because you have a family? She rejected you again and again, but you didn't give up and thought that she looked down on you. The first person who wanted to harm her was you, not me. Now we're in the same boat. If I can't live well, you can't live well either. How can you be so ruthless? I didn't think you were this kind of person. Aren't you afraid that I'll sue you? The man's voice was clearly trembling. It seemed that he was forced to do this. The main culprit was still Li Hui. Sue me? Do you think that other people will believe what you say? Don't be stupid. You have a motive, but I don't. If there's no direct evidence, then there's no way to say that I want to harm Duanmu Xinyao. Don't be naive. As soon as Li Hui's voice fell, my phone suddenly rang. I was scared and quickly hung up, but it was too late. Who's there? Li Hui's roar came from the computer room. I turned my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. He looked at me and signaled me to calm down. I nodded. Li Hui walked out of the computer room. She looked at me and Duanmuke and thought for a moment. It's you guys? Obviously, she already knew that we were on Xinyao's side. Her expression was very serious. When she saw my phone, I guiltily hid it behind my back. She looked at me and said, What? You heard our conversation just now and recorded it. Give me your phone, and I won't make things difficult for you. Li Hui extended her hand in front of me. I subconsciously took 2 steps back. At this moment, a man walked out of the room. His face was covered in stubble, and he didn't look like a good person. He looked at us and realized that his and Li Hui's scheme had been discovered. He looked at Li Hui with an evil expression. Li Hui nodded at him, and he took out a dagger from his pocket. When I saw him take out the dagger, I was shocked. I tightly grabbed Duanmukei's hand. Duanmukei looked at me and then at him. He said softly, "Don't be afraid. It's just a dagger. Don't be afraid." He lowered his head and whispered into my ear, "When that man rushes over, you have to turn around and run. Run to a place with a lot of people. I can stop that man, but I can't stop Li Hui. So, you have to run. Then, run home or go to the hospital to find Han Hao. Don't stay here alone. Be a good girl." Duanmukei patted my shoulder. Then, he smiled at Li Hui and the others. "Hey, what's the meaning of this? Do you want to have a fight?" Li Hui looked at Duanmukei and said, "You're Duanmu Xinyao's brother, right? I have nothing to say to you. She recorded it, and you know our plan. I won't let you leave here alive. Do it." As soon as Li Hui finished speaking, the man rushed toward us with a dagger. Duanmukei put me behind him and blocked the man with his hand. Duanmukei looked at me and shouted, "Shall we run?" Then he started fighting with the man. The man's moves were all fierce. Duanmukei had to guard against him and prevent himself from getting hurt. At the same time, he had to stop him and Li Hui from rushing towards me. However, I didn't have the heart to leave Duanmukei alone. It looked like Duanmukei wouldn't be able to stop them. Just as I didn't know what to do, Li Hui rushed in front of me. She looked at me and said, "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Give me your phone." Then, she reached out to snatch the phone from my hand. I held the phone tightly and stepped back. I saw that Duanmukei was wrestling with that man. He couldn't help me at all. On one hand, I was worried about him. On the other hand, I was worried about myself. I couldn't care less about the child in my belly. It seemed that I could only fight with Li Hui. Chapter 193. Li Hui rushed towards me and pulled out a knife from her pocket. She pointed at me and said, "Hurry up and give me your phone. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." I shook my head and looked at Li Hui. I wanted to stall for time, so I said to Li Hui, "What's the point of doing this? Tell me first, why did you frame Xinyao? Aren't you afraid of losing your job?" Li Hui sneered and looked at me. "Reason? Job? Let me tell you, if it wasn't for Xinyao, I would be the chief designer of our company right now. It's because of her appearance. Ever since she came to our company, the company has been very fond of her and neglected me. Now that she has become the chief designer of the new product launch, the clothes she designed are the priority to be promoted. But what about mine? I've become a basic promotion." Hearing Li Hui's words, I suddenly felt that her resentment was very heavy. I glanced at Duanmukei and saw that he was starting to get a cold. It seems that as long as I stall for time, Duanmukei will be able to solve the problem. I looked at Li Hui and said, "I think you're thinking too much. Don't your company have other designers? Why don't they have such a big reaction? They have already completely bowed down to Duanmu Xinyao's world-famous halo. Do they still have the mood to refute? It's good enough that they don't become her right-hand men. I'm not as brainless as them. I still think you're thinking too much." I turned my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. He had already pressed the man to the ground. It seemed that the time was about right. Just as I was feeling helpless, I didn't notice Li Hui. She suddenly rushed towards me with a knife. Before I could react, she was already in front of me. She swung the knife at me. I subconsciously raised my arm to block, but Li Hui's knife directly cut my arm. I screamed in pain and fell to the ground. Duanmukei heard my scream. He turned his head to look at me and shouted, "Xiao Li, what happened to you? Xiao Li, are you all right?" Duanmukei reached out and knocked the man down, snatched the knife from his hand, and went straight to Li Hui. Li Hui saw the Duanmukei running towards her. She quickly put the knife on my neck and shouted at the Duanmukei, "Don't come here. Come any closer and I'll slit her neck." Duanmukei stopped in his tracks. He looked at me anxiously and furrowed his brows. I shook my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. I held my phone tightly and quietly turned on the recording button. Li Hui didn't know I had started recording. I said to Li Hui, don't be impulsive. She looked at me, and then, at Duanmu, Quebec, put down the knife in your hand, or I'll do it. Duanmu K looked at me, and helplessly threw the knife in his hand to the ground. He was afraid that Li Hui or the other man would pick it up, so he threw it far away. I looked at Li Hui and asked, in this kind of deadlock situation, no one can do anything. I have a question I want to ask you. Some time ago, Xin Yao encountered 2 assassination attempts in the mall. Did you find someone to do it? It was me. So what? What's the point of you knowing it now? I'm telling you, you 2 won't be able to leave here today. Then, Li Hui raised the knife. I closed my eyes. At this moment, I felt a shadow appear in front of me. I opened my eyes and saw Duanmu K standing in front of me. His hand was bleeding. He snatched Li Hui's knife with his bare hands and hugged me tightly. I turned my head and looked at Li Hui. Duanmu K had lifted her to the ground, but I couldn't care less. I rummaged through my handbag and found a tissue. I hurriedly bandaged Duanmu K's wound. Duanmu K didn't care about anything else. He looked at Li Hui, who was lying on the ground, and said with a serious face, Li Hui, that kick wasn't light. You've successfully crossed my bottom line. I've never hit a woman. You hurt my sister, my brother, and my woman. For a woman like you, my kick was light. Li Hui, who was lying on the ground, wanted to get up. She looked at Duanmu K and shouted, I won't let you get away with it. Then she stood up and was about to rush over. At this moment, the police rushed in from outside. The one in the front saw the scene, then looked at Duanmu K and me. We just received a report that there was an assault here. Come and take them to the police station. I watched the police take Li Hui and the man away. I let out a long breath and leaned against Duanmu K's chest. I held his hand and said softly, Xiao K, it hurts, right? Everything is fine now. Duanmu K held me tightly in his arms and said softly, yes, everything is fine now. Let's go to the police station first. I nodded and followed Duanmu K to the police station. After we arrived at the police station, we took care of our wounds and started to record our statements. Everything that happened at the press conference was known to the family. The police also knew Duanmu K's and my identities. I gave the recording to the police. After the police verified it, they told us that it was strong evidence. After a detailed investigation, they could file a case. It seemed that they could really convict Li Hui. There was nothing else to do at the police station. Duanmu K and I prepared to go to the hospital to see Xin Yao and Suri. Suri's injuries were very serious, and I hadn't seen the Red Baron for more than a day. I didn't know how she was doing. After Duanmu K and I arrived at the hospital, we decided to go see Suri first. We contacted Xin Yao and found that Suri was on an 4 drip in the emergency room. When we arrived at the emergency room and found them, we found that Suri's head wasn't too serious. It seemed that Suri was very lucky. I looked at Xin Yao and said, Xin Yao, the last time you made an appointment with Dad, it should be today to go home to propose marriage. You won't be able to go now. Let's discuss it with Dad. Let's go tomorrow. Xin Yao nodded and said, I already told Dad. He also heard about what happened at the press conference. When I called him, he gave me a scolding. It was clearly not something I wanted to do, but in Dad's eyes, it became something I did. Dad was worried about you. Don't think too much about it. My mother has already prepared everything for Suri. When I have nothing to do tomorrow, I'll accompany you 2 home and tell Dad about your situation. I looked at the time and saw that it was already afternoon. I looked at Xin Yao and said, it's getting late. You 2 should go back to my house after you're done with your injections. Xin Yao, don't leave Suri's side for the next 2 days. You can stay at my house. I'll go see the Red Baron first. After that, Duanmu K and I left the emergency room and headed to the outpatient ward. Chapter 194. Duanmu K and I went to the Red Baron's ward. Han Hao was still guarding by the Red Baron's bed. I gently knocked on the door and walked in. Han Hao stood up and looked at us with the Red Baron. They were stunned for a long time. I looked at Han Hao in confusion. What's wrong? What are you looking at? Han Hao pointed at us and said, Why are you all injured? Did something happen at the press conference? Duanmu K looked at Han Hao. We've caught the mastermind behind the attack. Xiao Li tried her best to get direct evidence. That's how we managed to bring Li Hui to justice. In order to get the evidence, we had an argument with them. In the end, we were all injured. We didn't expect them to have a knife. It was a mistake. I walked to the Red Baron's bedside and sat down. I held the Red Baron's hand tightly. I looked at her and said softly, Red Baron, how are you? Are you feeling better? The Red Baron smiled at me. I'm feeling much better. Miss, I'm sorry that I wasn't by your side when you were in danger. Duanmu K looked at Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, come with me. Let's talk about something. Han Hao was bewildered for a moment. Then he nodded and left the room with Duanmu Quebec. I looked at their backs and felt a little worried. The Red Baron saw my hesitation. She pulled my arm and said, Don't think too much. Young Master Duanmu must be looking for Han Hao to talk about men. It's not convenient for you to listen. Maybe. I just don't want the two brothers to fall out. All right. How's Xiao Hao taking care of you? The Red Baron smiled and looked at me. He's very good. He arranged everything for me very well. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Mississippi. I shook my head and looked at the Red Baron. It's okay. I'm grateful to him for taking care of you for me. When did the doctor say you could be discharged? The doctor says he'll be all right in 2 days. What's the matter? Eldest Miss, is there something you want me to do? I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. No. I've realized that I can't control my feelings for Duanmu K anymore. I'm afraid that if I meet him again, I won't be able to leave him. So, I want to leave as soon as possible. Also, I have to go to America to settle some matters. So, let's leave when you're discharged. The Red Baron nodded and looked at me. All right. Eldest Miss, I'll go wherever you go. This time, I know that I have to protect myself. That way, I can protect you better. I looked at the Red Baron and nodded with a smile. At this moment, Duanmu K and Han Hao walked back into the room. I looked at them and asked, What did you two talk about outside? Duanmu K and Han Hao looked at each other. Then they looked at me and said, Nothing. We were just casually chatting. Nothing else. Don't think too much. I stood up and looked at the two of them. I just talked to the Red Baron. She can be discharged in 2 days. Duanmu K thought for a moment. That's good. Then everything will be perfect. Duanmu K turned to look at me and said softly, If there's nothing else, let's go home first. Didn't we have to talk about accompanying Suri to my house to propose tonight? It's already afternoon. Let's go home. I saw that Han Hao suddenly looked embarrassed. I glanced at Duanmu K, and he immediately understood. He turned to Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, today was supposed to be the day that Suri would come to my house to propose, but because of the press conference, we had no choice but to postpone it until tomorrow. Xiao Li promised Suri that she would go with him. Let's go home and discuss the details. I might have to trouble you to take care of the Red Baron. Han Hao looked at Duanmu K and then at me. Xiao Li, you go ahead. I'll take care of things here. Don't worry. Congratulate Suri and Xin Yao on my behalf. I hope they will be together for 100 years. Duanmu K and I accompanied Han Hao and the Red Baron to have a meal at the hospital. After that, we bid farewell to Han Hao and the Red Baron and set off on our way home. I didn't say anything on the way home. I didn't feel good about it. Perhaps it was because Han Hao had done a lot of things for me, but I didn't have the chance to thank him properly. Furthermore, I had to accompany Duanmu. Quebec appearing with him was undoubtedly the biggest blow to him. I knew that Han Hao didn't like me being with Duanmu K, but I still didn't consider his feelings. His heart must be in pain. Plus, I didn't know what Duanmu K had said to him. Thinking about it made me feel very uneasy. Duan Muke seemed to see through my thoughts. He reached out and gently placed his hand on mine. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. "Are you thinking about what Xiao Hao and I talked about?" I looked at Duan Muke and said, "Xiao Ke, did you announce your male chauvinism to Xiao Hao again? He's already very good. He's done so many things for me without any complaints. Can you not bully him anymore?" Duan Muke looked at me with a smile and said, "When did I bully him? I was just thanking him on your behalf. I know that he won't ask you to pay him back. Of course, I wouldn't use that to threaten you to be with him. I just told him that you're very grateful that he took care of the Red Baron for you and did a lot of things for you. When there's a chance in the future, you'll definitely thank him properly. Don't you understand him? He's a man who treats money like dirt. As for what Xiao Hao really likes, I really don't know. In my impression, he doesn't particularly like anything, but he also doesn't particularly hate anything. So I can only say that you'll properly thank him in the future." I looked at Duan Muke with great surprise. It turned out that he was saying good things for me, helping me to appease Han Hao. I was overthinking things. Duan Muke wasn't that bad. I blushed and looked at Duan Muke and said, "Thank you, Xiao Quebec. I might have misunderstood you. I thought you and Xiao Hao went to talk about something else." I didn't say it explicitly, but I knew that Duan Muke definitely understood what I meant. As Duan Muke drove, he said to me, "Then you're definitely overthinking things. Xiao Hao is also a man, and he wants face. If I said these things to him in front of you and the Red Baron, he would feel very embarrassed. So I called him out so that we can talk alone. We can also talk about what's in our hearts. Xiao Hao told me that he's volunteering to do these things for you, just like how he did many things for me in the past. He said that he can't bear to see you working hard, and he's willing to share your burden as much as he can." Hearing Duan Muke's words, my heart didn't feel very comfortable. The more serious Han Hao was about my feelings, the more my heart told me that I couldn't accept him. Chapter 195. When we arrived home, Suri and Xinyao were already there. They were playing with Susu. When they saw me and Duan Muke, they ran over to greet us. Xinyao threw herself into my arms. "Sister-in-law, you're back," she whispered. "Why did you bring my brother with you? He's not going to stay here, is he?" Duan Muke walked behind Xinyao, picked her up, and threw her to Suri. With a look of disdain, he said, "Suri, take care of your woman. I'm going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, I'll go home with you guys. If Dad asks about Suri's injury, I can cover for you. Keep an eye on this idiot. Every day, he causes trouble for me." Duan Muke reached out and stroked Xinyao's hair. Although Duan Muke didn't seem to care much about Xinyao, in reality, he cared a lot about his sister. But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Duan Muke was going to stay at my house tonight. There was a guest room, but with his status, how could he stay in a guest room? Just as I was thinking, my parents came out of their bedroom and sat down in the living room. I thought for a moment, then said to my mother, "Mom, Xiao Ke is going to stay at our house tonight." I looked at my mother, and she immediately understood what I meant. She looked at me, and then at Xiao Quebec, "Xiao Ke, you can come and stay with us." Before my mother could finish speaking, Duan Muke said, "Mom, there's no need to trouble yourself. I'll sleep in the same room with Xiao Li tonight. It's not like we haven't slept together before. There's no need to trouble yourself." We were all stunned. My mother looked at me with a doubtful face. She didn't seem to believe Duan Muke's words. I sighed and shook my head helplessly. My mother thought for a moment and smiled at Duan Mu Quebec. "It's no trouble at all. I'll ask Andy to do some simple cleaning. It won't take long." Duan Muke reached out and pulled me into his arms. He looked at my mother and said, "Mom, there's no need. I left a set of toiletries and a change of clothes in Xiao Li's room. I'll just use that." Then he looked at Suri and Xinyao and said, "You two can sleep in. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we can't be late. Okay, let's go upstairs." Then Duan Muke put his arm around my shoulder and went upstairs. I helplessly followed him. I didn't know what to say. Duan Muke carried me back to the bedroom. He closed the door and lay down on the bed. He looked like he was in pain. I suddenly felt that something was wrong. I sat next to him and asked softly, "Xiaoke, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable?" Duan Muke shook his head and looked at me. "Xiaoli, can you take a look at the wound on my arm? It seems to have split open." "What?" I shouted. I quickly took off Duan Muke's shirt. As expected, the wound on his arm had split open. I anxiously looked at Duan Muke and said, "Xiaoke, wait for me. I'm going to find the first aid kit." I hurriedly rummaged through the cabinets to find the first aid kit. Luckily, I had it in my room. I hurriedly treated Duan Muke's wound. I looked at it and saw that it was quite serious. After I finished bandaging it, I said softly, "Xiaoke, your wound isn't light. Why don't we go to the hospital? I'm worried." Duan Muke shook his head and leaned against the headboard and said to me, "Maybe I used too much strength when I was holding Xinyao, so the wound split open. It's okay, it'll be fine after it's bandaged." I sighed and looked at him. "All right then. If you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell me. We have to go to the hospital. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to find you a change of clothes. Where did you put your things?" I stood up and began to rummage through the wardrobe. Duan Muke pointed to the corner of the wardrobe and said, "It's in the cardboard box in the corner." I followed his finger and found the cardboard box. I opened it and saw that it was full of his clothes. I took the clothes out and turned to look at him. His expression was still pained. It seemed that changing clothes on his own was quite troublesome. I sighed and climbed onto the bed to sit next to him. Duan Muke opened his eyes and looked at me with a surprised expression. I looked at Duan Muke and reached out to unbuckle his belt. He didn't stop me and just looked at me in silence. I didn't dare to raise my head to look at him. I said softly, "It's not convenient for you to change clothes because of the wound on your arm. Let me help you change." Duan Muke nodded and didn't say anything. After I helped Duan Muke change his clothes, I tidied up his clothes and handed them to the auntie. I told the auntie to wash them before tomorrow. I also took some fruit from the kitchen to the bedroom. Duan Muke was still lying on the bed. His body was covered in gauze. Looking at him, I felt sorry for him and found it funny. I looked at Duan Muke and said softly, "Xiaoke, eat some fruit." Duan Muke raised his head and looked at me. He patted the side of the bed and gestured for me to sit there. I thought for a moment and climbed onto the bed. I reached out and took a piece of apple and brought it to Duan Muke's mouth. He smiled and watched me eat it. Then he said to me, "This life is better. I'm content as long as I can quietly look at you and accompany you." I looked at him and said, "You should take care of your body first. There are so many things waiting for you in Kurosawa. Your parents will be worried if they see you like this. You can't let anything happen to you." Duan Muke reached out to grab my arm and pulled me into his embrace. I didn't have time to resist and fell directly into his embrace. My first reaction was that I was afraid of pressing on his wound. Just as I was about to sit up, he hugged me tightly in his embrace and turned on the air conditioner. Before I could say anything, he said to me, "With the air conditioner on, it won't be hot if we hug. The fruits are right next to the bed. If you're hungry, you can eat them. If you're tired, you can just lean into my embrace and sleep." Our intimate actions are very normal in the eyes of others. Do you have any other concerns? Duan Muke had already considered all the questions I wanted to ask. I thought for a moment and said softly, "You're still messing around. What if your wound tears open again?" Duan Muke thought for a moment and said, "It won't. You can't bear to see me get hurt." I didn't know how to respond to his answer. I didn't know what to say, so I just quietly leaned into his embrace and listened to his heartbeat. Duan Muke held me in his embrace and gently stroked my hair. I was a little sleepy, but I didn't want to sleep so early. There were still some things on my mind. The closer Duan Muke was to me, the more I couldn't bear to part with him. But I couldn't be with him. My love for him had always been tangled in my heart. Chapter 196. Duan Muke and I talked for a long time that night. We talked about some random things, but he was very good to me. Unlike the past, he didn't touch me. He just hugged me and talked for the whole night. We didn't sleep for long. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, the two of us were so sleepy that we fell asleep. We slept until 8 o'clock the next morning, when we woke up. Fortunately, there was still time. The two of us hurriedly tidied up and went downstairs. Auntie had already prepared breakfast. Suri and Xin Yao had also woken up. During breakfast, Xin Yao deliberately pushed Duan Muke away and sat next to me. I felt that she was being very mysterious. After eating for a while, Xin Yao put her face in front of me. She looked at me with a perverted smile and said softly, "Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, did anything indescribable happen when you slept with my brother last night?" I glared at Xin Yao. Afraid that Duan Muke would hear, I whispered to her, "Bad girl, you don't know my body's condition. You still want something to happen between me and your brother. What are you thinking in that little head of yours?" Xin Yao looked at me with a smile and said, "I didn't think anything. Isn't this normal? Love between a man and a woman. We are all adults. We all understand." Finished speaking, Xin Yao gave me a meaningful glance, which made my hair stand on end. I looked at Xin Yao and said, "You're still talking about me? Aren't you the same? Yesterday, I created an opportunity for you to have sex with Suri, and you didn't thank me. What do you think? Do you have a lot of fun having sex with him?" I looked at Xin Yao with a perverted smile. Her face immediately turned red. Xin Yao gently pushed my arm and said softly, "Sister-in-law, you're so bad. You're making me embarrassed." With a fried dough stick in her mouth, Xin Yao leaned on my shoulder and acted cute. I glanced at Suri. He was talking with Duanmu, Quebec. His expression looked very serious. I looked at Xin Yao and said, "Xin Yao, look at Suri. He cares so much about you too. He even asked Duan Muke for advice. Look at yourself. Every day, you're always thinking about what could happen between me and your brother. It's like you've discovered a new continent. The difference in focus is too big." Xin Yao sat up. She pouted and looked at me. Then she looked at Suri and Duan Muke and said unhappily, "Suri, bro, what are you two talking about? Why are you two men sneaking around behind my sister-in-laws and my back?" Suri raised his head and looked at Xin Yao. "It's nothing. Young Master K and I were talking about what kind of young people President Duanmu likes, and what kind of conversation style he likes. I was just trying to learn from young Master K, so we didn't talk about anything else." Xin Yao suddenly froze. She looked at Duanmu K and asked, "Bro, is Suri really asking you these things?" Duanmu K held his coffee and said softly, "That's right. Suri only asked about our father's interests and hobbies. He said he was willing to cater to our father's interests for you. I told him everything I know about our father, nothing else." Xin Yao curled her lips, looked at me, and said softly, "All right, sister-in-law, you win." I looked at Xin Yao and gently stroked her hair. "All right, there's no winning or losing between the two of us. I just want you to think more about your relationship with Suri. After all, if you two are going to get married, there are still many things you need to do." Duan Muke looked at me and said, "Shaoli, don't talk about Xin Yao. You might not know her, but the more she acts calmly, the more nervous she is. She's the kind of person who doesn't show her emotions on her face. She's willing to hide everything and digest it herself. She should be more anxious than anyone else right now. This sister of mine has been the apple of our parents' eyes since she was young, especially my mother. She loves her a lot and spoils her to no end. All parents want to find a good man for their daughter. Xin Yao should be very nervous right now." "Brother, you've exposed my little secret again." Xin Yao looked at Duan Muke with an unhappy expression. Suri sighed. I could feel that he was also under a lot of pressure. At this time, Susu came to the table and sat next to Xin Yao. Xin Yao looked at her and smiled. "Susu, sister will be your sister-in-law, okay?" Susu was stunned for a moment. Then she looked at Xin Yao and asked, What's a sister-in-law? Xinyao rubbed her head and said, A sister-in-law is your brother's girlfriend. I'm the woman who will be with your brother for the rest of his life. I also want to give birth to a little niece or nephew for you. Susu thought for a moment, and then seemed to understand. She looked at Xinyao and nodded vigorously. I'm willing. I want sister to be my sister-in-law. I'm willing. I like sister. No, I like sister-in-law. We were all charmed by Susu's cute appearance and couldn't help but laugh. The atmosphere at the table became less tense. I looked at Xinyao. It was just as Duanmu K had said. Although she said that she was fine, she was actually very worried. Her eyes had already betrayed her. I gently patted Xinyao's shoulder and whispered into her ear, Girl, don't worry. I know you're worried about Suri's condition. Don't think about it. I'll take care of the condition. Whatever Suri needs, I'll take care of it for him. You just have to trust in his feelings for you. Okay? Xinyao put down her bowl and chopsticks. She tightly hugged my neck and whispered, Thank you, sister-in-law. Thank you for preparing so much for us. Suri and I will be fine. Mom and Dad won't object. I believe in Suri and myself. Duanmu K and Suri, who were eating at the table, were stunned when they saw us hugging each other. Duanmu K held his coffee cup and looked at us with a dark expression. It's early in the morning, and you're sitting at the table in front of us. Is it appropriate for you two to be so lovey-dovey? Xinyao let go of me and turned her head to look at Duanmu K and Suri. She glared at them and said, It's none of your business. I have a good relationship with my sister-in-law. You're jealous, aren't you? Just like that, we spent breakfast in a noisy atmosphere. After breakfast, we took the gifts we were going to Duanmu's house to visit the Duanmu family. When we arrived at the entrance of my house, Duanmu K handed the key to his beloved car to Suri. Suri looked at Duanmu K in confusion. Duanmu K looked at Suri and said, Suri, this is my engagement gift to you and my sister. You can't refuse. As long as you promise to treat my sister well for the rest of her life, it's fine. Chapter 197. We were all stunned. Yao looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. Wow, brother, this is your favorite Porsche. You're really going to give your favorite car to Suri? Duanmu K looked at Yao with a serious face. What's wrong? No, I'll give you this car. There are ready-made ones in ETC, and all the shopping malls in a city have VIP parking spots. You don't need to worry about parking. It's quite convenient. Yao shook her head and said to Duanmu K, No, brother, that's not what I wanted to ask. What I wanted to ask is, are you willing to give your favorite car to him? It's a limited edition. Duanmu K rolled his eyes at Yao, then turned to Suri. He took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to Suri. Suri, this is also for you and my sister. When you're free, take my sister out shopping. She loves to play. When you have time, take her out for a walk. Suri was stunned. He looked at Duanmu K and shook his head. No. Young Master Duanmu, I can't take this money. My income is okay. It's enough to take Yao out to play. That's right, brother. We don't need it. We can support ourselves, Yao said. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. I thought for a moment, then walked to Duanmu, Quebec. I looked at Suri and Yao. Your brother gave it to you. You should take it. Otherwise, he'll feel uneasy. Yao thought for a moment. She rushed to Duanmu K and hugged him tightly. Then, she kissed Duanmu K on the cheek. Thank you, brother. I'll take it. Thank you for loving me so much, brother. She whispered to Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K blushed. He quickly opened the door and got in the car. Okay. It's late. Let's hurry. Since Duanmu K sat in the back, Yao sat in the front. She wanted to chat with Suri and relieve their stress. Duanmu K and I sat in the back. After the car started, I looked at Duanmu K and whispered in his ear, Xiao K, thank you. Duanmu K turned to look at me. He reached out and hugged my waist. He whispered in my ear, "Thank me for what? Thank me for being so good to you?" I smiled at Douanmu, Quebec, actually. You've wanted to give your car to Surrey for a long time. You've prepared the money in your card for a long time. Douanmu K looked at me with a puzzled expression. How did you know? I sighed. I sighed and said, I know how many cars you have. When we were together, you never drove this Porsche, you always drove an Audi. But recently, you started driving this car. As for the bank card, before we divorced, I once saw a small box under your desk. Inside the box was that bank card. I carefully looked at the ending of the card number and the bank of the account. It was exactly the same as the bank card you gave Sue Rouet today. You should have a lot of money in that bank card. Is it the dowry you prepared for Xinyao? Douanmu K raised his head to look at Suri and Xinyao. He softly said to me, I support Suri and my sister being together. But you also know my father's position. He always wanted to use my sister's marriage to exchange for his own benefits. The boyfriends he introduced to my sister before were all sons of rich businessmen in a city. Let's not talk about their looks first, but their intelligence couldn't keep up. My sister has always resisted, but how could she endure my father's torture? I saw it with my own eyes, and my heart ached. When I confirmed the engagement with you, I also resisted, but it was all in vain. At that time, I thought that my tragedy couldn't happen to my sister. At that time, I also knew that Xinyao's finances were dependent on her parents. She spent all the money she earned on luxury goods and didn't know how to save money. I thought about it and started to save money for Xinyao in the hope that she could find a good husband. If the boy's family was ordinary or even poor, the money I saved for her would be enough for the two of them to start a small business. I nodded and looked at Douanmu, Quebec. You're very thoughtful. How much did you prepare for them? Douanmu K moved closer to my ear and whispered, I didn't prepare much, just 1 million. I was stunned for a moment. I touched the bag in my hand and lowered my head. Douanmu K looked at me and asked, What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? I shook my head and looked at him and said, Actually, I was also afraid that Dad wouldn't agree to Sue Rouet and Xinyao's matter. So before the marriage proposal, I already did my best to prepare for the two of them. The house has already been prepared. Sue Rouet's job in the Red Tea Association has also been promoted to a high level. And then the things needed for the marriage proposal have also been prepared. Originally, I also wanted to prepare a car for him, but at that time, Xinyao told me that she already prepared one for him. So I thought that it would be better to prepare some money for them. So I also saved some money these few days, but it wasn't as much as you. I only prepared 500,000. Douanmu K looked at me and gently stroked my hair. Silly, they will understand our intentions. You don't have to worry anymore. Dad has me and Xinyao, so there shouldn't be any problems. I also hope that they can get married as soon as possible. I nodded, although Douanmu K was trying his best to comfort me, but I still felt very uneasy in my heart. As we talked, we arrived at Douanmu's house. The car drove into the courtyard, and we got out. The housekeeper greeted us at the door. We walked into the living room. Douanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya were waiting for us on the sofa. After a few simple greetings, we sat down on the sofa. Suri looked at me, and I nodded at him. Suri gathered his courage and looked at Douanmu Tachio. Uncle, I came here today to talk to you and Auntie about something. Douanmu Tachio nodded and looked at Suri. You want to talk about the marriage proposal, right? We were all stunned. It seemed that he already knew. Suri was stunned. He looked at Douanmu Tachio with a sincere expression. Uncle, so you already know. Can I tell you what I think? Douanmu Tachio nodded. Sure. Let's go. We'll talk in the study. Then he stood up, and the rest of us followed. Douanmu Tachio turned to look at us. Yao, you guys wait outside and chat with your mother. Suri, come with me. Chapter 198. Suri turned to look at me. I nodded and told him to go in. Actually, I was worried that something might go wrong if he and Douanmu Tachio talked alone. Douanmu K reached out and patted my shoulder. telling me not to worry. The three of us sat down on the sofa. I glanced at Xinyao. She was biting her fingers as she stared at the door of the study. Her expression was very serious. I knew that she was worried the most right now, but I didn't want to disturb her thoughts. I could only sit by her side, silently. Xiao Fengya looked at me and smiled. Xiao Li, long time no see. How have you been? I came back to my senses and smiled at Xiao Fengya. Mom, I've been good. How have you and Dad been? We've been good. We are also very good. I heard from Yao Yao and Kay, that your relationship with Kay, is very good. We are also very happy. Kay, treated you so badly at that time, but you didn't lower yourself to his level. In fact, your father and I still hope that the two of you can remarry. I can also see that Kay, still loves you very much. Although he still hasn't recalled the memories of the two of you together, we can also see how he feels about you. So, Xiao Li, you should think about it. I glanced at Duanmu Kay, and he was also looking at me. I couldn't directly refuse, but I also couldn't agree. I smiled at Xiao Fengya and said, Mom, I still have a lot of things to do in the Red Minghui. I'll think about it after I'm done. Actually, Xiao Kei is very good to me, and I can feel it. Mom, don't worry, I'll think about it. Don't worry. Xiao Fengya smiled at me. If you're busy, you should take care of your body. Don't tire yourself out. Duanmu Kei glanced at Xinyao, then at Xiao Fengya. Mom, I think Xinyao won't be able to leave the study for a while. How about this? I'll take Xiao Li to the garden. The garden has been renovated, and Xiao Li hasn't seen it yet. I was stunned and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. I didn't understand what he meant. Did the garden really get demolished? Xiao Fengya looked at us and said, Okay. You guys go. When it's time for lunch, I'll ask Auntie to call you. Then, Duanmu Kei pulled my hand and led me to the garden. Duanmu Kei brought me to the garden. From the outside, it looked the same as before, and I couldn't see any changes. Duanmu Kei pulled me into the garden. As soon as I entered the garden, I was stunned by the scene in front of me. There was a new flower pond in the place of the abandoned rose pond. It was full of roses, and there were several rattan chairs next to the rose pond. If there was any change, it would be that it looked even more beautiful than before. I stood by the flower pond in a daze. Duanmu Kei stood behind me and hugged me from behind. He softly said, How is it? Does it look good? I nodded and said to Duanmu Kei, Why did you suddenly want to renovate this place? Duanmu Kei hugged me tightly and said to me, I know you like the rose pond. When I destroyed your rose pond back then, I saw how heartbroken you were. I felt sorry for you. So I found the best gardener in a city to come to my house and make this rose pond. My parents didn't care about me, so I could do whatever I wanted. After I was done, I realized that it could actually be so beautiful. In the past, I was never interested in flowers and plants, but ever since I had feelings for you, all my interests and hobbies have changed a lot. Hearing Duanmu Kei say that, my heart felt warm. Duanmu Kei stood in front of me and hugged me. He gently stroked my hair and said, Xiao Li, thank you. You changed my bad temper and made me calm down a lot when I encounter things. I never thought that I would change my nature for a woman, but you changed me. I don't regret it at all. I like these changes because they let me experience my own heart. I understood the meaning of Duanmu Kei's words. I looked at Duanmu Kei and said softly, Thank you for preparing so much. I just told Mother that when I'm done, I'll think about the two of us. I hope you can give me some time. Duanmu Kei held my shoulder and looked at me. Xiao Li, I won't force you. I know that Hao also likes you. I also said that I want to compete with him fairly, so don't think too much. You have your own things to do. I understand, silly. I'll always be by your side. Duanmu Kei gently kissed my forehead. Young master, young madam, are you there? The housekeeper's voice came from outside the garden. Duanmu Kei raised his head and shouted, I'm here. What's the matter? Young master, madam asked me to call you and young madam. She said that master and young master Suri have finished talking. Madam asked you to return to the living room. Okay, I got it. Duanmu Kei turned his head and looked at me. Shaoli, let's go back and see how things are going with Xinyao and Suri. I nodded and followed Duanmu K back to the living room. When we returned to the living room, Suri and Duanmu Tachio had already come out of the study. I looked at Duanmu Tachio's expression, which was the same as always. I then looked at Suri and Xinyao. They were also talking with their heads lowered. I sat down next to Suri and pulled on Suri's arm. "How is it?" I asked quietly. Suri looked at me and gave me an okay sign. My heart dropped. I sighed and looked at Xinyao. Her eyes were moist. It seemed that she also felt that this happiness had not come easy. At this time, Duanmu Tachio said, "Suri, Xinyao, you two should hurry up with your marriage. Isn't the house already under renovation? If you need money, just tell me." Duanmu Tachio looked at Xiao Fengya. Xiao Fengya nodded. She went into the bedroom and came out with a card. She handed the card to Xinyao and Suri. Duanmu Tachio continued, "Take this card. You two can take care of the wedding arrangements. This is a little token from me and your mother." Xinyao took the card and smiled at Duanmu Tachio. "Thank you, Dad." "Thank you, Mom." She turned to look at Su Rue and said, "That's great. We're finally done. Brother gave me money, sister-in-law gave me money, and even Mom and Dad gave me money. I'm so excited." Chapter 199. Xinyao and Suri's marriage was settled just like that. The preparations for the house and the wedding were all done in an orderly manner. After I left Duanmu's house, I immediately ran to the hospital and chased Han Hao home. After that, I stayed by the Red Baron's side until the Red Baron was almost fully recovered and was discharged from the hospital with the doctor's approval. I then brought the Red Baron back to the Long residence and returned the house she rented. I packed up all her belongings and brought them back to the Long residence. I especially asked the nanny to arrange a room for the Red Baron. Like this, the Red Baron lived in my house. Ever since the attack at the shopping mall, the Red Baron and I had obviously become closer. Xinyao had to prepare for her wedding, so she didn't have time to accompany me. However, she was very nice to me and bought me a bunch of health supplements for expectant mothers. When she brought them to me, I was even mocked by her and Suri. However, there was nothing I could do about it. My stomach was slightly bulging now. It seemed like I wouldn't be able to hide it from Duanmu K for a long time. I had to leave for the United States as soon as possible. After the Red Baron was discharged from a hospital, we stayed at home for another week. During this time, I didn't see Han Hao or Duanmu Quebec. These two people seemed to have disappeared from my side. During this week, the Red Baron accompanied me to the hospital for a checkup. The baby was fine. I also asked the doctor if we could take a plane to the United States. The baby wouldn't be affected too much. It seemed like everything was ready before we went abroad. As usual, our family sat in the living room and chatted after dinner. At this time, my father looked at me and said, "Lear, get ready. Go to the United States with Red Jew on Sunday. As for the tickets, I will arrange for Secretary Lee to take care of it later. Just prepare the things you need to take with you." Because Red Jew was injured some time ago, I arranged for Secretary Lee to buy first-class tickets for you. I have also informed old Jiang that Jiang Qing will pick you up at the airport. Remember what I told you, don't be too tired over there. Try to arrange for the people below to do everything. Don't always think about doing it yourself. You will be gone for about 2 or 3 years. Your mother and I will go to see you when we have nothing to do. Your mother and I will take care of themselves over there. I will start preparing tomorrow. Hearing my father's words, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. I really didn't expect to go to the United States so soon. I thought for a moment and nodded. "Okay, Dad. I understand. I will take good care of myself over there. I will start preparing tomorrow." Mother looked at me and said softly, "Shaoli, you must take good care of yourself over there. The United States isn't like home." I can rest assured if the Red Baron is by your side. If you go alone, I definitely won't let you go. I have already told your father that I will go over to accompany you after I am done here. You can't not have your parents by your side when you are giving birth. When that time comes, you will miss them very much. Don't worry, Dad and Mom won't leave you alone. I nodded and looked at my mother. Thank you, Mom. I understand. At this moment, the Red Baron sat next to me and gently nudged me. She looked at me and gave me a meaningful look. I didn't understand what she meant. She whispered into my ear, "Let's go out for a walk." I immediately understood what the Red Baron meant. I looked at my parents and said, "Dad, Mom, I want to go out for a walk. I still haven't digested my food after dinner. I can take the Red Baron out for a walk." Father nodded and said, "Go. Come back early." Then I took the Red Baron's hand and walked out of the living room. The two of us walked to the garden. I sat on a rattan chair and looked at the garden full of roses. I was in a very good mood. The Red Baron looked at me. She sat across from me and looked at me. She said softly, "Young mistress, what are you thinking about?" I was stunned for a moment. Gently stroking the roses, I shook my head and said to the Red Baron, "No, I am not thinking about anything." The Red Baron smiled and looked at me. "You are thinking about young Master Duanmu and young Master Han, how aren't you?" I was stunned. I looked at the Red Baron in disbelief and asked, "How did you know?" The Red Baron continued, "Not only do I know that you are thinking about them, but I also know that you are wondering why they haven't come to see you for so long." Red Jew sat next to me. She put her arm around my shoulder and whispered to me, "Actually, I think I know men better than you. Duanmu and Han Hao should be at home thinking about the matter between the two of you. They both need some time to calm their hearts. Only then can they know how to face you. I dare to bet that there's a 99% chance that both of them are thinking the same thing." Red Jew sighed and said softly, "Actually, I think I know men better than you. Duanmu and Han Hao should be at home thinking about the matter between the two of you." I looked at the Red Baron in disbelief and said, "How do you know men so well? You haven't interacted much with Duanmu and Han Hao. How do you know them?" The Red Baron shook his head and said to me, "A man is a hunting animal. When his prey is in an environment that is not particularly safe, he will not enjoy his prey. After confirming that it is safe, he will really start to enjoy his prey, and he will never share it with others. Therefore, the two of them now have to determine whether they will get you or not. Only when they get you will they be qualified to possess you. Moreover, the young lady's character is so strong. She is definitely not the kind of woman who will easily give in, so they must think carefully about it." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "Forget it. Let's not think about it. Anyway, we are leaving on the weekend. You have to promise me that you will keep this a secret from them. You can't tell Xin Yao and Suri either. I have to find an opportunity to tell Dad and Mom. I can't let them tell anyone else." The Red Baron nodded and smiled as she gently caressed my face. She stayed by my side. The two of us sat next to the rose pond without saying a word. We just sat there silently and felt the breath of the wind. The wind blew my hair messily, and my heart trembled. The next day, the Red Baron and I simply packed our luggage. There weren't many things to bring to America, and the branch there would also prepare for us. I thought about it and specially bought some local specialties to bring over. I hadn't seen Uncle Jiang and Jiang Qing for a long time. Although we talked on the phone, it was still not as intimate as when we met in person. Moreover, I heard from Jiang Qing that he was already engaged with his girlfriend, Cece, in America. They said that they would get married after I arrived. I thought about it and felt that as his eldest sister, I should also prepare a wedding gift for him. Therefore, I shopped with the Red Baron for a long time and picked out a very good gift. Chapter 200. When it was time to leave for the United States, the whole family woke up early. My mother was busy preparing my luggage for me for a long time. My father also got up very early. He sat in the living room and told us what to do. Red Baron didn't have a lot of luggage. In addition to 2 suitcases of clothes, she was also holding a doll that looked very old in her arms. I knew that this doll had accompanied her since she was a child. It meant a lot to her. Although it wasn't a treasure, in Red Baron's eyes, she was the most precious thing. I, on the other hand, had to carry at least 5 or 6 suitcases. I suddenly felt worried. My father looked at me and said, "Lee, why don't you ask Suri to come and give you a lift?" "No, Dad." I quickly stopped him. I looked at my father and said, "Dad, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm going abroad. So don't look for Suri. We'll take a taxi to the airport later. I can check these things in." My father thought for a moment and nodded. I let out a sigh of relief. I glanced at the time. It was almost time to leave. After bidding farewell to my family, the Red Baron and I embarked on our journey to America. After more than 10 hours of flight, we finally got off the plane and arrived in America. I couldn't help but take a deep breath. I hadn't set foot on this land for a long time. After taking out our luggage, the Red Baron and I walked out of the airport. As soon as we reached the exit, we saw Jiangqing. He was always so eye-catching. He had a lollipop in his mouth. He saw me in the crowd and jumped up and waved at me. I shook my head helplessly. The Red Baron and I dragged our luggage over to Jiangqing. Jiangqing was stunned when he saw me. Then he pulled me into his arms and patted my back vigorously. "Missy, you're finally back. I missed you so much, so much." Jiangqing's grip was too strong. He had only patted me twice, but I already felt that I couldn't take it anymore. Just as Jiangqing was about to raise his hand, the Red Baron grabbed his wrist. Jiangqing was stunned. He tilted his head and looked at the Red Baron with a serious expression. I took the opportunity to escape from Jiangqing's embrace. The Red Baron smiled at Jiangqing and said, "It's better if you don't pat her. Missy's body won't be able to take a third pat." Jiangqing furrowed his brows. He looked at the Red Baron and asked, "Who are you?" Then he shook off the Red Baron's hand. "Let me introduce myself. I'm the Red Baron. I'm the personal bodyguard who came to America with Missy. If you pat Missy's back like that, I'll get angry." Jiangqing pursed his lips and turned to look at me. I nodded, confirming that the Red Baron's words were true. Jiangqing looked at me, then at the Red Baron, and then at me. He suddenly broke down and threw himself into my arms. He hugged me tightly and said, "Missy, I'm so scared." "Missy, look at the Red Baron. He's grabbing my arm and it's hurting me. Missy, look at him." Red Baron's expression was the same as mine. We were both shocked by Jiangqing's actions. I patted Jiangqing's shoulder and pushed him to the side. Then I walked over to Red Baron and said softly, "Don't be afraid. He's just like that. When he knows we're on the same side, he's scared. He's not like that to outsiders, but he's very manly." Jiangqing is in charge of a lot of things in the Red Tea Association's North American branch. He's a very capable person and is also a famous local DJ. It's just that his personality is sometimes like a child, but only to people close to him. The Red Baron nodded thoughtfully. She looked at me and said, "I understand. I will definitely become good friends with him." Actually, I originally thought that the Red Baron's cold personality wouldn't be able to get along with Jiangqing, but I was completely wrong. The two of them talked very much on the way back to the club. From video games to entertainment and fashion, the two of them really had the same interests and hobbies. Sitting between them, I suddenly felt like I didn't fit in, but I couldn't say anything, so I could only brace myself and listen to the two of them talk nonstop. We finally arrived at the entrance of the club. Uncle Jiang was already there with a group of people to welcome us. When I got out of the car, Uncle Jiang hurried over. Uncle Jiang took my hand and whispered to me, "Shaoli, you're back. That's great. Everyone missed you." I smiled at Uncle Jiang and said, "Uncle Jiang, let me introduce you. This is my personal bodyguard, the Red Baron. My father arranged for me to come to America with him." I introduced the Red Baron to Uncle Jiang. "Hello, Uncle Jiang. I am the Red Baron." The Red Baron smiled and bowed to Uncle Jiang. "Hello, hello. It's rare for the young miss to have such a good bodyguard by her side. It's really rare." Welcome to Red Minghue's American Club. Uncle Jiang smiled very happily. I looked at Uncle Jiang and said, Uncle Jiang, you've worked hard during this time. You've been busy with everything in the club. You've worked hard, Uncle Jiang. It's what I should do. No need to say thanks. Let's go in and chat. Everyone must be hungry. It's already prepared. Everyone come in. I nodded and followed Uncle Jiang into the club. On the way to the club, Uncle Jiang whispered to me, Xiaoli, I received a call from your father. He said that you and the Kurosawa Duanmuke are divorced, and you're pregnant? What's going on? I was stunned. After thinking for a moment, I said to Uncle Jiang, Uncle Jiang, you don't have to worry about it. I'll tell you in detail when I have the chance. Then, the pregnancy definitely isn't fake, right? Uncle Jiang said to me nervously. I thought for a moment to calm Uncle Jiang down. I whispered to him, the pregnancy is real. Actually, I was afraid that if I gave birth in China, I wouldn't be able to hide it from the Duanmu, Quebec. So, since our club has a lot of projects in America, I volunteered to be in charge of them. It's also for the sake of giving birth in America. This way, the Duanmuke definitely won't know about the child. Uncle Jiang nodded. He looked at me and sighed. Forget it. But Uncle Jiang has to remind you that you don't have to worry too much about the club's matters. Just focus on taking care of the baby. If you really can't handle it, I'll have Jiang Qing sign you up for a Mother-to-Be's club and have you attend classes every day. That way, you won't have time to worry about the club's matters. My face darkened as I looked at Uncle Jiang and said, Uncle Jiang, you can't treat me like this. I already said that I have official business to attend to this time. Uncle Jiang, please promise me. I promise that I won't tire myself out. But there are things that I must attend to within the association. Otherwise, I will really feel uncomfortable. Uncle Jiang is begging you. Please promise me, okay? Chapter 201. When Uncle Jiang and Jiang Qing were busy outside, Red Ju was in charge of the work. Everyone recognized Red Ju's work ability. With everyone's help, everyone created an atmosphere for me to rest. My belly was getting bigger day by day, and I was also nervous day by day. Fortunately, when I was 8 months pregnant, my mother came to the United States to accompany me. My mood was slightly better. After arriving in the United States, I cut off all contact with China. Everything was handled by Red Ju. Red Ju told me that Xin Yao and Su Rui were married. The two of them were very loving and had chosen to go to Europe for their honeymoon. The two of them had looked for me, but Red Ju didn't tell them that I was in the United States. They should have also gone to my house to look for my parents, but they didn't get an answer. Red Ju said that Xin Yao and Su Rui were already married. The two of them were very loving and had chosen to go to Europe for their honeymoon. The two of them had looked for me, but Red Ju didn't tell them that I was in the United States. They probably also went to my house to look for my parents, but they didn't get an answer. As for Han, Hao and Duanmuke, it was just as the Red Baron had guessed. At first, there was no news from the two of them, but after a few days, they started looking for me everywhere. My mother told me that Han, Hao, and Duanmuke had visited my house more than once or twice, and it almost drove my parents crazy. They pestered them every day to ask about my whereabouts, and I didn't know where they got the Red Baron's contact information. The Red Baron told me that she would receive a call from either Han, Hao, or Duanmuke every 3 or 4 days, and she could not answer it. It really made her a little frustrated, but I couldn't think of a better way. So I could only buy the Red Baron her favorite snacks to reward her. Just like that, it didn't take long for me to give birth to a daughter who looked a lot like Duanmu, Quebec. She was a chubby little girl, and after a long discussion, we decided to name her Long Lingyu. We also thought of a very cute nickname for her, E. E's birth suddenly made my boring life meaningful. The most important thing for me every day was to take care of E. My mother was afraid that if I breastfed her, I would lose my figure, so she insisted on using imported milk powder, but I insisted on breastfeeding her. I knew that breastfeeding was good for the baby, and I felt especially happy every day when I looked at E. She was a good child who didn't cry or throw a tantrum. She would smile and greet familiar people when she saw them. And the way E smiled was very much like Duanmu, Quebec. Looking at her was like looking at Duanmu, and I still couldn't let go of him. When I was almost fully recovered and E could crawl, my mother returned to the country. Jiangqing, his girlfriend, Cece, and the Red Baron all liked E very much. As long as they weren't busy, they would come to me to take care of the child for me. They would also take care of me at the same time. I repeated these peaceful days every day, and I didn't feel bad about it. Instead, I felt very happy. It was actually pretty good, just that I had less dependence in my heart. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, E was already 2 years old. E was a smart child, and she could speak a lot at the age of 2. Things in America were almost done, and during my time in America, I was also involved in a lot of things. Jiangqing and Cece had successfully gotten married, and Cece had also officially joined the Red Minghui. The Red Minghui's American branch had also opened its second branch, and its business had also expanded to half of the city. The Red Minghui's development was flourishing, and I felt very happy. It seemed that it was time for me to return to America. This time, I was going to bring my E back. Maybe I would meet Duanmu, or maybe I would meet Han Hao, but I felt that E shouldn't live in America. Although America was very good, she should have received China's education from a young age, so I decided to bring her back to America. The day after I decided that E and I would return to America, I told Uncle Jiang my thoughts. After Uncle Jiang heard my thoughts, he thought for a long time before saying, "Xiaoli is gradually growing up, so it's time to bring her back. After all, this place is different from China, and the people you love are also in China, so it's time to go back." Just as Uncle Jiang and I were chatting enthusiastically, Jiangqing ran in from outside the door in a panic. He looked at me and shouted, "Missy, Missy, hurry up and hide, quickly hide. There's a very fierce woman. She's barging and looking for you. I can't stop her. Missy, quickly run." I was already used to Jiangqing's acting skills, and seeing his exaggerated expression, I was already used to it. But I guessed wrong. This time, Jiangqing didn't lie to me. "Cold glaze. Quickly come out. I know you're hiding here." This woman's voice was very familiar, and just as I was guessing who it was, Xinyao walked in from outside the door. At that time, I was stunned and almost dropped E in my arms to the ground. "Xin Xinyao?" I was stunned. Hugging E, I stared at Xinyao with wide eyes. Xinyao glanced at Jiangqing, then looked at Uncle Jiang, and then turned her head to glare at me. She threw the bag in her hands to the ground, walked in front of me, and asked with her hands on her hips, "Sister-in-law, you've been playing hide-and-seek a bit too much. How long has it been? You've been hiding from my brother and Han Hao Gidge, and now you've been hiding from me and Suri as well. I'm so angry, so angry. Now that I've caught you, you can't run away. Let's see what else you want to explain to me." This was the first time I'd seen Xinyao so angry, and I was stunned. I hugged E, and I didn't know how to explain it to her. At this time, E sat in my arms and pointed at Xinyao. In a childish voice, she called out, "Pretty auntie." Everyone present was stunned. It was only then that Xinyao realized that E was in my arms. She was stunned for a moment. Then she lowered her head and moved closer to stare at her. E saw that Xinyao had moved closer to her, but she wasn't afraid at all. She reached out to support Xinyao's face and gently kissed her on the cheek. Xinyao was even more stunned. She looked at E and suddenly smiled. "Ah, she looks so much like my brother. Don't tell me. Oh my God, is this my niece?" E looked at Xinyao and reached out to her. "I want a hug." E's cute appearance made Xinyao fall for it. She reached out and hugged E and kept saying, "So cute. So cute. So cute. I like her so much." Xinyao kept playing with E. Fortunately, she had already forgotten about her revenge. Xinyao turned to look at me. "Sister-in-law, the baby is so cute. What's her name?" I looked at Xinyao and smiled. "Her real name is Longlingyu, and her nickname is E." You should give her back to me. I'm afraid she'll like you, and then not like me. Chapter 202. Xinyao pursed her lips. She looked at me and said, "No way. I don't want to give you such a cute baby. Right, little E? Little E and Auntie are the best, right? Xinyao, why didn't you wait for me? When you see Missy later, don't be too impulsive." "Missy?" I turned my head to look at the door. Suri walked in with big and small bags of luggage. The moment he saw me, he was stunned. Jiangqing took the luggage from Suri. I stood up and looked at Suri. "When I saw Xinyao, I guessed that you would definitely come. Come, let me introduce you. This is Uncle Jiang. The one who helped you with your luggage is Jiangqing. This is my personal bodyguard, Suri. The one holding E is Duanmu K's sister, Duanmu Xinyao. She is also Suri's wife." After everyone introduced themselves, Suri saw E in Xinyao's arms. He looked at the baby and then at me in disbelief. "Missy, is this your baby? It's so cute." I looked at Suri. "By the way, how did you guys find me?" At this moment, Xinyao turned her head to look at me. She shouted at me, "Sister-in-law, you still have the nerve to say that. If I didn't have a product launch event to attend in the US and met the Red Baron at the airport as soon as I got off the plane, I would never have guessed that you'd be hiding here. I'm so angry." Okay, I was wrong. Didn't you find me? So don't be angry. When is your product launch? Let's go watch it. I had no choice but to find an excuse to change the subject. At this moment, Suri looked at me and said, "Missy, how have you been in the US for so long?" I nodded and looked at him. "I've been fine. How are you guys? Is everything okay? How are your parents? How are your parents? How are they doing?" Suri nodded. "Everyone is fine. When you weren't here, Han, Hao, and Duanmu K always came to our house. Later, the president and his wife even went on a vacation for a month and a half. But they didn't come anymore. They probably couldn't find you, so they gave up." Of course not. My brother didn't give up. When I went home to see him, he wasn't in good shape. He didn't even smile. Mom and Dad and Mom asked him what happened, but he didn't say anything. We all felt for him, but we didn't know how to comfort him. Hearing Xinyao's words, I felt very uncomfortable. In fact, I missed him a lot. Now that I had put down the burden, I was ready to go back and tell him that I still loved him and that I was still willing to be with him. If he knew about E's existence, he would be very happy. At this moment, Xinyao looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, my brother still doesn't know about E's existence. Are you going to bring E back to China and show her to him directly?" I shook my head. "I haven't thought about how to tell him yet. I'll decide when I get back. What about you guys? When are you going back?" "Us? We also have to go back after the product launch. Why don't we go together?" I nodded. "Okay, I'm really happy to see you guys. This time I have someone to take care of E for me. It's rare that you like E so much, so I'll let you and E be alone for 2 days. I have something to take care of anyway. Suri, come to the meeting later. It'll be the last thing I have to do in the US." Suri nodded. "Okay, I got it." In the afternoon, the few of us had a regular meeting. After we explained everything that needed to be dealt with in the United States in order to celebrate the arrival of Xinyao and Su Rui, as well as to wish the success of Xinyao's new product launch, I decided to take everyone to Cece's bar in the evening to have some fun. There was still some time before the party, so I hugged E and lay on the bed to rest. At this moment, the Red Baron knocked on the door and came in. She saw that E had fallen asleep, then looked at me. It seemed that she wanted to talk to me. I saw that E was sleeping soundly, so she probably wouldn't be woken up. I got off the bed and followed the Red Baron out of the bedroom. When we reached the living room, I looked at the Red Baron and asked, "Did Jiangqing tell you about the party tonight?" The Red Baron nodded. She looked at me and said, "Yeah, Jiangqing did tell me. I'm looking for you because I have something to tell you. I just heard the news." I felt that what the Red Baron wanted to tell me was serious. I looked at the Red Baron and asked softly, "What's going on?" "I heard news from our country. It seems that there's a problem in Kurosawa." It said that an insider stole Kurosawa's information and sold it to someone else. He also transferred 30% of the Kurosawa's shares to an outsider. As long as more than 50% of the shares are transferred, the Kurosawa will belong to someone else. Right now, Kurosawa is in a mess. Even President Duanmu doesn't know who's behind all this. I thought for a moment and looked at the Red Baron. "Is there any news about Xiao Ke? Does Xin Yao know about this?" "I haven't heard anything from young Master Duanmu yet. Miss Duanmu has never been involved in Black Viper's affairs, so she shouldn't know. I think it's best if we don't tell her about this. Actually, Miss Duanmu's heart is very weak. She definitely won't be able to handle such a heavy blow." I looked at the Red Baron and asked, "How many people and funds do we have left in the country?" The Red Baron thought for a moment and looked at me. "We have 200 to 300 people. Our funds should be around 30 million. I nodded and said to the Red Baron, "How about this? First, contact our people in the association and transfer 5 million under my name. Then, use your own name to finance the Kurosawa. It should be able to relieve their pressure temporarily. We can discuss the rest when we go back. I can't count on Xin Yao, so I can only ask you to do this for me." "Oh, right. Don't tell father and mother. I'll find a suitable opportunity to talk to them." The Red Baron looked at me thoughtfully. She smiled and said, "Miss, there's something I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you. The Red Minghui and the Kurosawa are clearly opposing forces. Right now, the Kurosawa is facing a crisis of collapse and bankruptcy. Why do you insist on using your own resources to help them? Is it because you can't let go of your love for Duanmu? I sneered. I looked at the Red Baron and said, "Maybe. I should help him. Although my ability is limited, I can't give up my love for him. I don't want to see him hurt, nor do I want to see him under pressure. Let's just think of it as me silently paying for him." Chapter 203. As Xinyao and Suri's trip to America was coming to an end, the day of my return to China was also approaching. I took some time to ask the Red Baron and Xinyao to accompany me to the mall to pick out some gifts to bring home. We also bought some baby products that Yi needed. I had only been in America for 2 years, but this time I would have to bring more than 10 boxes of luggage back home. Just thinking about it gave me a headache. Luckily, Jiang Qing thought of a solution for me. He sent someone to help us board the plane and then arranged for someone to pick us up in China. That way, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble carrying so much luggage. When we finally arrived at the airport, Uncle Jiang, Jiang Qing, and Cici came to see us off, especially Uncle Jiang. I had worked with Uncle Jiang for so many years, but this was the first time I saw such a sad expression on his face. Actually, Uncle Jiang was the one who liked Yi the most, including me. Uncle Jiang treated Yi like his own granddaughter and took care of her meticulously. Although I had urged Jiang Qing and Cici to get married quickly, Uncle Jiang's feelings for Yi were even more intimate. Sometimes I would talk to Uncle Jiang about it. Uncle Jiang also felt sorry for me. He felt that it was hard for me to raise a child alone. So during the 2 years we were in America, Uncle Jiang tried his best to take care of everything by himself. He didn't let me work too hard and created enough time for Yi and me. I still couldn't bear to part with Uncle Jiang. Uncle Jiang was like a father to me. Ever since I came to America to take over the branch when I just came of age, Uncle Jiang was like a father to me and also like a teacher. He taught me a lot of things, but after I returned to China, I still had a lot of things to do, so I could only say goodbye to him for now. When I have the chance in the future, I will definitely come and see him again. Red Baron, Suri, and Xinyao boarded the plane back to China. Because of our identities, Jiang Qing arranged for us to be in first class. Yi was very obedient. It was her first time on a plane, and she didn't make a fuss. She sat obediently in my arms and looked around from time to time. Yi really liked colorful things, which was very similar to Xinyao. Xinyao's style of dressing was bold, fashionable, and bright. Sometimes, I would tell her that she shouldn't wear too revealing clothes since she was already married, but I couldn't control her. Every time I told her that she had a great figure and good looks, she would say that I was jealous of her beauty. Although I wanted to refute it, I didn't have the energy to complain. On the plane, E kept running into Xinyao's arms. I hugged her tightly, afraid that she would bump into something. Xinyao didn't care about that either. She sat on the chair next to me and kept playing with E. I had already drawn circles around her in my heart a few times. In the end, I really had no choice but to let go of E. E climbed up from the chair and into Xinyao's arms step by step. She was an extremely smart little girl. She took advantage of the situation and snuggled into Xinyao's arms. I looked at Xinyao with a dark expression. I whispered to her, "Xinyao, don't you think that he looks like you?" Xinyao smiled at me and said, "Of course, she's my niece. If she doesn't look like me, who else would she look like?" I covered my mouth and tried my best not to laugh. I looked at Xinyao and pointed at E. E is just as perverted as you. After I said that, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Red Baron, who was sitting next to me, also covered his mouth and laughed softly. Suri poked his head out from behind Xinyao and nodded solemnly. I laughed even louder. "You guys are so annoying." Xinyao pursed her lips. She hugged E and said happily, "I have to thank E. She gave me the inspiration. I've decided that for the next release, I'm going to launch a children's clothing exhibition. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Think about it. How cute would E be if she wore the clothes I designed? I like E so much." After she said that, Xinyao kissed E on the cheek. I nodded and said, that's a good idea. It'll save me a lot of money on clothes. The clothes you design are so expensive, I can't afford them. You can just give me the sample clothes. That way, I won't have to buy clothes for E. Wahahaha, just thinking about it makes me excited. Xinyao looked at me with disdain and said, "Sister-in-law, you're so bad. You're so rich, but you're still complaining that you're poor. When we went shopping before we came back, you spent tens of thousands on EE's things, and you still have the nerve to tell me that you don't have money. You're so bad." At this moment, the Red Baron interrupted. "Milady is right. She really doesn't have any money now. She just spent 10 million 2 days ago." When I heard the Red Baron say that, I quickly stopped her and told her to stop talking. The Red Baron looked at me helplessly and shook his head. 10 million? Sister-in-law, what are you doing? Buying a house or a piece of land? No. Are you planning to keep other beauties? You don't love me anymore. And you don't love the Red Baron anymore. Xinyao's imagination ran wild. I looked at Xinyao and shook my head awkwardly. Don't think too much. I still love you guys. I'm not keeping other girls, and I didn't spend that much money. Don't listen to the Red Baron's nonsense. Xinyao thought for a moment and said, "All right then. You guys talk. I'm going to take E to the bathroom." Then, Xinyao stood up and left with E in her arms. As soon as Xinyao left, Suri sat next to me. He looked at me with a serious face. Then, he glanced at the Red Baron and back at me. He asked softly, "Milady, do you know about the Kurosawa incident?" I was stunned for a moment. Then I looked at Suri and nodded. Suri clenched his fists. He looked at me and said, "I knew it. Did you use the Red Minghue's funds to help the Kurosawa?" Before I could say anything, the Red Baron looked at Suri and said, "You're right. At first, she said she wanted to use 5 million. Later, she used 10 million. When she gave me the money, I was stunned. I really don't know what she was thinking." I looked at Suri helplessly and smiled foolishly. I really didn't know how to explain it to him. Then, Suri looked at me and said softly, "Milady, are you crazy? If the president finds out that you used the Red Minghue's funds, he'll definitely be angry. Plus, you didn't use it for yourself. You used it to help the Kurosawa. The president will definitely be furious. Milady, you're playing with fire." I smiled bitterly and looked at Suri. I said softly, "But I love him. How can I reject this reason? It's not like you don't know what I'm thinking. Su Rui shook his head helplessly. He looked at Red Baron, then looked at me and said softly, "You two are too reckless. Forget it. The president will definitely find out after a long time. After we go back, Red Baron, let's think about what to do. At least we have to settle the account first." Chapter 204. All right. Let's not talk about this for now. Xin Yao is coming back soon. Seeing that the bathroom light had turned off, I quickly stopped talking. When Xin Yao came back, we pretended as if nothing had happened and took a quick nap. When we woke up, there was less than an hour before the plane was due to depart. We tidied up a little and prepared to depart the plane. It felt different when I stepped on my own soil. I was worried that Yi's environment overseas would be different from that in China, so I carefully observed her. Fortunately, she seemed to be in high spirits. Perhaps it was because she was in an unfamiliar environment, but she seemed to find everything new. Looking around, I let out a long sigh of relief. When we left the airport, our family had already arranged for someone to pick us up. Suri and Xin Yao did not go home with us, as they had returned to their own home. However, Suri told me that he would contact me in 2 days. It was probably about the money I had embezzled without permission. When we arrived home, our parents were already waiting at the door to welcome us. We exchanged a few simple greetings before we entered the living room. When we arrived home, Yi had already attracted everyone's attention, especially my father. My father was very happy when he hugged her. It seemed that they were still very close despite being generations apart. I did not want to disturb them, so I asked them to play with Yi downstairs while I went upstairs alone. When I returned to my bedroom, my mother had already arranged for the nanny to tidy up my bedroom. I lay on my bed and felt an inexplicable amount of pressure after coming back. The thing that filled my mind the most was probably Kurosawa and Duan Mukei's matter. The Red Baron left as soon as she got off the plane because she knew the urgency of the matter. She was also afraid that I would be worried, so she might have gone to deal with it first. However, she should be back by now. As I had guessed correctly, there was a knock on my bedroom door. The Red Baron pushed the door open and entered. She looked at me, and I looked at her. We looked at each other and smiled. The Red Baron sat on my bed and reached out her hand to stroke my hair gently. This was her signature gesture of doting on me. She knew that I was an insecure person, and only a simple comforting gesture like this could calm my heart. The Red Baron looked at me and said, "Don't worry, I've already taken care of everything. The money has been directly financed into one of the Kurosawa's most unprofitable projects. I'm using my real name, so no one should be able to recognize me. The project should improve very quickly and solve some of the Kurosawa's problems. You don't have to worry." I nodded and leaned on her hand. "Thank you for your hard work. I can only rest assured if I leave this matter to you." The Red Baron looked at me and smiled. "Don't mind what Suri said. He's doing it for your own good. He doesn't want you to take on too much responsibility for others. It's a good thing that the president is very satisfied with you for the American project. In 2 days, Suri and I will come to the meeting to settle the debt. Then everything will be fine. You should rest well and get used to the jet lag." I looked at the ceiling and sighed. How can I rest well? Oh, right. Do you have any news about Duan Mukei? How is he now? I guessed that you would ask about him. When I went there, I asked the secretary. Because of the internal disintegration and the outflow of shares, President Duanmu and his wife, as well as Duan Mukei, have been keeping a low profile. There's no news about them anymore. However, I heard that they've been eating and living in the company. They haven't even returned home. I heard that they've been surrounded by reporters, so it's not convenient for them to show their faces. After hearing the Red Baron's words, I became even more worried. I thought for a moment and looked at the Red Baron. "Red Baron, can you help me arrange something? I want to see Xiao Quebec." The Red Baron lay down next to me. She looked at me and said, "My lady, don't cause trouble at this time. Their company is almost in lockdown. You actually want to see him at this time? You're really crazy. Listen to me. It's not convenient for you to see him at this time. But how can I be at ease when something like this happens? Dad's health is not good. How can he take such a huge blow? I felt depressed. My mood was very gloomy. Indeed, no one would be happy if such a thing happened to them. I suddenly thought about it and said to the Red Baron, "How about this? You help me contact Han Hao. He should know that I'm back." The Red Baron looked at me and sighed. "All right, leave this to me." The Red Baron thought for a moment. Then she took out a bank card from her handbag and handed it to me. She looked at me and said softly, "Take it. This is a little bit of my savings. I know that my savings are only the tip of the iceberg for the Kurosawa, but this is a small token of my sincerity. Don't touch the funds that you can use. If the chairman really finds out, I can't help you get away. Take it." I looked at the Red Baron in surprise. I took the bank card and asked her softly, "This is your savings. Why are you giving it to me? You have nothing to do with the Kurosawa." The Red Baron reached out and touched my face and said softly, "Because you are the eldest young lady. You are my first friend. You have difficulties. As a subordinate, I have to help you out of my duty. As a friend, I also need to help out of friendship, don't I? You don't have to worry about it. I'll arrange a meeting with Han Hao for you." I hugged the Red Baron tightly. Actually, I knew that the money that the Red Baron gave me was the reward money that she had earned from every mission she completed since she started working for the Red Minghui. Although she earned a lot every month with her ability, it took a lot of determination to save up so much money. However, she gave me the money that she worked so hard to save up, which meant that she had to start all over again. My heart felt warm, and I was glad that I had made such a good friend. After chatting with the Red Baron for a while, the two of us went downstairs to prepare for dinner. When I went to the living room, I saw that my parents were still playing with E. E was really a good girl. She didn't cry or throw a tantrum even after playing with her parents for so long. I walked over and carried E into my arms. E leaned on my shoulder obediently. She was probably tired from playing, but she didn't feel tired because of her grandparents. I patted her back gently, and she fell asleep not long after leaning on my shoulder. I said goodbye to my parents and carried E back to her room. After I settled her down and waited for her to fall asleep, I went downstairs to eat with everyone in the living room. Chapter 205. It had been almost a week since I had stayed at home to adjust to the time difference. I had nowhere else to go, so I stayed at home obediently. It was only during the Red Minghui's regular meeting that I showed up. The elders in the meeting greeted me warmly when they saw me, and they all knew about E's situation. Everyone clamored for my father to throw a party so that everyone could see E. I was touched by everyone's enthusiasm. It was actually pretty good to be back. I could see everyone and feel the atmosphere of home. On a weekend afternoon, when I was at home taking care of E, the Red Baron walked in from outside. She sat next to me and hugged E. She gently kissed E on the cheek. She looked at me and said, "It's done." I was stunned for a moment. I thought about it for a while before I remembered that I had asked the Red Baron to arrange a meeting between Han Hao and me. I looked at the Red Baron and smiled. "Really? Thank you so much." The Red Baron looked at me and said, "Don't mention it. We've arranged to meet at Ming Fei Cafe at 7 p.m. tonight. I've checked out for you. The environment is pretty good. Although there aren't many people, it's definitely safe." I nodded and looked at the Red Baron. "Okay, I understand. All right. What did you tell Xiao Hao?" "I called him and arranged to meet him. I told him that you're back. He was very surprised, but he agreed readily. After we met, I told him about you. Of course, I cleverly avoided talking about the Kurosawa. It wasn't appropriate for me to talk to him about this. You should talk to him about it. He agreed without thinking about anything. I think he really wants to meet you. After all, it's been so long. But I can tell that Han Hao's feelings for you are still the same as before. I was stunned for a moment and sighed. You know, I only have Duanmu K in my heart now. Although I'm very grateful to Han, Hao, I can't be with him as a couple. I can't lie to my heart, and I can't lie to his feelings for me. The Red Baron put Yi down and looked at me. Don't worry. I know your heart. I just want you to be mentally prepared. If Han Hao confesses to you, don't be shocked. I nodded. Right now, all I could think about was the Kurosawa issue. Tonight, I had to talk to Han Hao and discuss with him how to solve this issue. It was almost time for the appointment. I simply dressed up and handed Yi to my parents. I told them that I had something to do and left. I drove to the cafe, but I didn't see Han Hao's car in the parking lot nearby. Maybe he changed his car or didn't drive here. I didn't know if he had arrived or not. I pushed the door open and walked into the cafe. The moment I entered, I saw Han Hao's figure. This place was indeed as Red Baron had described. The cafe's environment was very good, and there weren't many people. Han Hao was sitting in a booth by the window. I looked at his side profile. He was still as gentle and handsome as before. I straightened my collar and walked over to Han Hao. When I reached his side, he turned his head and looked at me. He looked very surprised. Han Hao stood up and hugged me tightly before I could say anything. I couldn't see other people's gazes. I could only feel Han Hao's heartbeat. Han Hao hugged me tightly. He stuck close to me and said softly, "Xiaoli, you're finally back. You're finally willing to appear in front of me." I could feel his excitement. My heart was very uncomfortable. I reached out my hand and gently patted Han Hao's back. I softly said to him, "And I'm back. Xiao Hao, let me go first. Let's sit down and slowly talk. There's still plenty of time." Han Hao let go of me. He pulled out a chair for me to sit in like a gentleman. Then he sat opposite me and looked at me. His expression was very gentle. He looked at me and said, "Xiaoli, how are you? You disappeared for such a long time and didn't contact us. How are you doing?" "All right. I heard from the Red Baron that you gave birth to a very cute baby. Why didn't you bring it over? Your baby must be as gentle and cute as you." I looked at Han Hao with a smile and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. It's because there's a project in America that needs to be carried out. I was preparing to give birth to a baby, so I took the project and went overseas with Red Baron. Because it took so long to complete the project, I came back after everything in America was done. The baby is very cute. Because she's still too young, it's not convenient to bring her out. So I asked my parents to take care of her. I'll bring her out when I have the chance. When you come back, I'll bring it out." Han Hao looked at me. He paused for a while. Then he looked at me and said, "Does Xiao K know that you're back? Does he know about you and the baby?" I shook my head and looked at Han Hao. "No, he doesn't know. I haven't looked for him in such a long time. He doesn't know anything about me. Now isn't the time to tell him. Let's wait for the opportunity in the future. You know about his situation?" Han Hao looked at me in shock. It was as though I had found out about something very important. I nodded and looked at Han Hao. "Yes, I know. I came here today because of this. He must be under a lot of pressure right now. He definitely needs help right now. I came here to ask for your help. Let me have the opportunity to help him." Han Hao looked even more surprised. He looked at me and said, "How can you help? Xiao K didn't tell many people that he's getting married. You just came back to China. How did you know? Did Suri tell you? Why can't I help? Isn't it just marriage?" I didn't know what I was talking about. The cup in my hand fell to the ground. The waiter heard the noise and immediately ran over to take care of it. I stared at Han Hao. I didn't know how to describe my feelings. "Marriage?" Han Hao looked at me and asked, "Isn't it about the marriage? Is there anything else besides this?" I shook my head and looked at Han Hao. "No, it's about the Kurosawa internal problems. Someone stole the company's internal funds and privately transferred part of the company's shares to outsiders. Now the Kurosawa is facing an economic crisis. I'm here because of this. I'm afraid that he can't handle it alone. That's why I want to help him. Han Hao whispered to me. So it's about this. I thought you knew about Duan Mukei's marriage. Xiao Li, listen to me. Pretend I didn't say anything. Pretend you didn't hear anything. Don't take it to heart. Chapter 206. What the hell is going on? I couldn't control my emotions and shouted. I didn't expect to attract the attention of the people around us. Han Hao looked at me and sighed. Xiao Li, don't worry. I can tell you, but you must promise me that you will control your emotions. I nodded and looked at him, waiting for him to tell me what happened. Han Hao whispered to me, as you know, the Kurosawa is indeed in trouble. You should remember that Secretary Li, right? Uncle Duanmu trusted her a lot and gave her the right to make decisions on small matters in the company. But who would have thought that she stole Uncle Duanmu's signature and seal, stole nearly half of the company's assets, and sold 35% of the company's shares to an outsider? Fortunately, the 35% shares were distributed among 5 people, so they weren't considered major shareholders of the company. Now Uncle Duanmu is trying to find a way to get the shares back under his name. It's going pretty smoothly, and he's already gotten 4 shares back. However, the company's internal losses and the cost of getting the shares back have seriously affected the company's normal operations. But there's no other way. In order to appease everyone's emotions, Uncle Duanmu and Auntie Duanmu have to hold on. Xiao Kei has also suffered a lot. He sold his sports car collection, but that amount of money was nothing compared to the company's deficit. Originally, Uncle Duanmu wanted to sell the villa in the suburbs as well, but Xiao Kei didn't agree. He said that he didn't want to sell the memories he had with you, so he didn't sell it. Now, the company is still in a deficit, and we don't know when it will get better. A while ago, I heard from Xiao Kei that a stranger invested 10 million in a new project. For the time being, the new project can operate normally. I hope this new project can bring profits to the company. But what does this have to do with Duan Mukei's marriage? Who knows when it might explode? Just when everyone was in a dilemma, this person who held 10% of the shares appeared. I heard that Uncle Duanmu had told that person about his idea at the time, but that person had no intention of returning the shares to his father. Instead, he brought up the matter of a marriage, and even told Uncle Duanmu that he would invest another 50 million to restore the Black Nightmare Society's finances. If the marriage were to happen, not only would the shares be returned to his own hands, he would also be able to obtain an investment of 50 million. The pressure on the Black Nightmare Society would be greatly alleviated in an instant. In the face of such a huge benefit, Uncle Duanmu agreed without a second word. Little Kay, on the other hand, had been strongly opposed to this from the very beginning. But as you know, opposition is ineffective. How could he possibly fight against Uncle Duanmu? Up until now, he's been grounded at home by Uncle Duanmu. I've only gone over to see him occasionally. He's completely dispirited, cooped up at home all day, not going anywhere. I've once asked Uncle Duanmu to take Lil Kay out to play, but Uncle Duanmu didn't agree at all. There was nothing I could do, so I could only keep quiet. After listening to Han Hao's words, I smiled bitterly. I lowered my head and looked at Han Hao. What kind of person is the woman? She's a rich second generation. I heard that her father, the one who owns the shares, is a nouveau riche. He suddenly became rich, and now he's in the real estate business. The woman doesn't do anything but stay at home. But I heard that she's very pretty. I thought for a moment and nodded. Forget it. She's not bad. She's a good match for Xiao Quebec. I suddenly thought of something and took out the 5 million yuan bank card that the Red Baron had given me for my bag. I also took out the 5 million yuan that I had saved and put them together. I put the bank card on the table and handed it to Han Hao. I looked at him and said, "Take this money and give it to Duanmu, Quebec. His company is in such a big trouble, and I can't use the company's funds to help him. This is a little bit of my savings and the Red Baron savings. Take it. I'm not feeling too well, and I'm a little worried about E. I'll go back first. If you have anything to say, I'll talk to you later. Then, I stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. I didn't know how I walked out. I felt like I was floating. Suddenly, my legs gave way, and I almost fell to the ground. Suddenly, someone reached out and pulled me into an embrace. I looked up and saw that it was Han Hao. He hugged me tightly and whispered, "Are you hurt anywhere? Why were you so careless? Why were you in such a hurry to leave?" I pushed Han Hao away and whispered, "I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm leaving." I pushed Han Hao away and turned to leave. But I didn't expect Han Hao to pull me into his embrace again. This time, I didn't avoid him. I grabbed his clothes and leaned against his chest and cried. The two of us hugged each other for a while. We couldn't feel the gazes of the people around us anymore. Han Hao hugged me and stroked my hair gently. "Xiao Li, don't cry. I know you're sad. Don't be afraid. You still have me. Don't cry. I'm sad too." Han Hao hugged me and listened to his comforting words. I cried even harder. Han Hao comforted me for a while and drove me home. On the way home, the two of us didn't say a word. Han Hao probably understood my feelings. He was afraid that if he said too much, he would hurt my heart. When we reached the door, I got out of the car and walked into the living room. I didn't care if Han Hao stayed or left. Han Hao followed behind me. I walked past the living room and went upstairs. I didn't even talk to the Red Baron, who was sitting in the living room. I went into the bedroom and saw Yi sleeping soundly on the bed. I laid down beside her and gently stroked her body. My tears couldn't stop flowing again. I never thought that the vows we once made would no longer exist. I thought he would wait for me, but he went back on his words. I came back for him, but just when I was looking forward to getting back together with him, he had already chosen someone else. Where should my heart go? Just as I was crying my heart out, I didn't expect Yi to wake me up. She saw that I was crying, and she turned over to face me. She reached out her small hand and wiped the tears off my face. Then she said to me in a childish voice, "Mommy, don't cry. Yi, stay with Mommy." Hearing her words, I was already sobbing my heart out. Chapter 207. Just as I was crying in Yi's arms, the bedroom door was pushed open. The Red Baron and Han Hao walked in. She looked at me crying and sighed. Then she picked Yi up from my arms. She hugged the Red Baron and said softly, "Auntie Red Baron, Mommy is crying. Yi wants to be with Mommy." The Red Baron gently stroked Yi's back and said to her, "Yi, be good. Auntie Red Baron will take you to Grandma's, okay? Grandma bought many beautiful little clothes for Yi. Yi will definitely like them." Then the Red Baron carried Yi out of the bedroom. Only Han Hao and I were left in the bedroom. Because Han Hao was there, it wasn't convenient for me to continue lying down. I walked to the bedroom window and looked out. I couldn't calm down. Han Hao walked to my side and reached out to hug me. I tried to break free, but he hugged me tightly. I knew that it was useless to struggle. I could only lean into his embrace, my heart aching. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said to me, "Xiao Li, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have told you this, but I don't want you to be hurt. You still have feelings for Xiao Quebec. You brought the baby back this time because you wanted to mend your relationship with him. But is it worth it? Xiao Li, is it worth it? He has already given up resisting and decided to marry that woman. Do you think it's appropriate for you to appear as his ex-wife? Xiao Li, I can't bear to see you suffer like this. Seeing you like this makes my heart ache too." I shook my head and said to Han Hao, "I understand what you mean. I don't have any other thoughts now. I just want to see him, even if it's just once from afar. Is that okay? Xiao Hao, I'm counting on you." Han Hao suddenly patted my shoulder and looked at me. "Xiao Li, you don't need to ask me. Once, twice, or even more times, my answer will be the same. I won't be an accomplice to hurt your heart. Never. In the past, I didn't care what you said or did, and even helped you. But this time, it's different. I won't let you do whatever you want. So, Cold Glaze, from now on you are my woman. I won't allow you to think about any man other than me. This is not a negotiation. This is my decision. You have no right to object because you are mine. Before I could object, Han Hao held my face and kissed me deeply. I resisted, but he was too strong. It was the first time I felt that Han Hao was so strong. He held my waist tightly, and his kiss wandered on my lips. My heart raced and my face burned. My body became weaker and weaker. I leaned against the wall, but Han Hao still didn't let go of me. He kissed me even more fiercely. Unconsciously, I gradually gave up resisting and put my hands on his shoulders to feel his kiss. After a while, Han Hao finally let go of me. My heart was still beating very fast. I didn't know what to do. I leaned against the wall and didn't dare to look at him. I could feel my face blushing. The atmosphere must have been very awkward. Han Hao looked at me and reached out to touch my face. He said softly, "Look at how good you are now. You look like a little girl in love. I like you the way you are now. That crying face really doesn't suit you." I was stunned. I raised my head and looked at Han Hao. "What did you say? Did you do what you did just now just to make me forget about it?" Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He held my face and kissed my lips again. He said softly, "No, I really want you to be my woman. You don't have the chance to object now. You are mine." My heart was beating even faster. Han Hao hugged me and gently stroked my hair. "Silly, don't worry. You are mine. I will treat you well. I hope you won't reject me. This time, I can guarantee that you won't reject me. Don't worry, I will give you time. But this time, I will give you a deadline. If you don't call, then don't call." I thought for a while and looked at Han Hao. I nodded. Han Hao held my face again and kissed me gently. Then he left, leaving me alone in the bedroom. If I didn't have any feelings for Han Hao, why didn't I resist when Han Hao kissed me? Instead, the feeling was very strong, as if I was about to fall into his hands. What should I do? I suddenly didn't know what to do. Just as I was feeling conflicted, the Red Baron walked in from outside. She stood at the door and looked at me. She couldn't help but smile. I looked at the Red Baron and asked, "What? Why are you smiling so happily?" The Red Baron walked to my side. She reached out and tidied my collar. She smiled and said, "It seems like nothing happened. But looking at your rosy cheeks, I guess you are in a good mood. It seems that only Han Hao can cure you. But I am relieved." I pursed my lips and looked at the Red Baron. What happened? Nothing happened. How can he cure me? I didn't do anything wrong. Why does he have to cure me? I felt that I was starting to speak incoherently. The Red Baron looked at me and said, all right, whatever you say. But this time, I really have to talk to you. You shouldn't cry in front of E. You are E's pillar. If you fall, what will happen to E? Isn't that right? Fortunately, E is obedient. You are not as sensible as E. Also, I heard about Duanmu, Quebec. Since he has already chosen to marry that woman, you should stop fantasizing about him. Compared to him, I think Han Hao is much better. You should think about it carefully. As the Red Baron and I were chatting, the housekeeper knocked on the bedroom door and said that Suri and Xinyao had come. Before I could say anything about going downstairs to welcome them, Xinyao had already rushed into my bedroom and threw herself in front of me. Xinyao hugged me and said loudly, "Sister-in-law, I have some bad news for you. You have to hold on." I turned my head to look at Xinyao and sighed, "I know what's going on. Your brother's matter, I already know." "Ah, is it about my brother's marriage? Sister-in-law, how did you know?" "Did Suri tell you?" "That can't be." "Did the Red Baron tell you?" "That can't be. She doesn't care about these things." "Sister-in-law, how did you know?" "Han Hao told me. He just came by." I looked at Xinyao. Chapter 208. Xinyao nodded thoughtfully. "All right," she said softly. "Sister-in-law, you have to hold on. Don't be angry." I smiled and looked at Xinyao and said, "It's nothing. The two of us are already divorced, so there's no relationship between us. What's there to be angry about?" As I said this, I suddenly felt a burst of pain in my heart. At this moment, Suri walked in and looked at me. "Miss, Xinyao has already tried to contact Duanmuke, but she couldn't reach him on his phone. He wasn't at home either. She even searched all the places he frequented, but she couldn't find him." Later, Xinyao went to ask her parents and found out that her father had grounded Duanmu, Quebec. He didn't tell anyone because he was afraid that someone would leak the news. He had been resisting before, but now he's not resisting and has even agreed to it. It's just that he hasn't shown up in public yet. I sighed and looked at Xinyao and Suri. "Yeah, it's fine. I got it. It's all in the past." Xinyao reached out and hugged me. "Sister-in-law, what are you going to do next?" she asked softly. I thought for a moment and asked Xinyao, "When is your brother's engagement party?" Xinyao thought for a moment and said, "Sister-in-law, it's the beginning of next month. Are you going to attend?" I looked at the calendar. "It's still early, so we'll talk about it when the time comes. For now, I just want to spend some quiet time with E. I don't want to think about anything else. The way things are now is pretty good. He's living his life, and I'm living mine. I don't need to let Duanmuke know about E's existence. If he finds out that he has a child, it might cause problems for his life. I don't want that to happen. But isn't E so pitiful? Her father is clearly not far away, but she can't acknowledge him. When E grows up, she might not accept her brother. This is too unfair to E. No, sister-in-law. You must talk to my brother about this." I shook my head and looked at Xinyao. "No, I can't tell him. Also, there's no need to tell him. I've already decided to choose someone, so there's no need to tell him. So, you don't need to worry about it. You just need to sincerely bless my life." Suri and Xinyao looked at each other, then looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, did you find Prince Charming? Who is it? Do I know him?" At this moment, the Red Baron smiled and said, "Isn't that so? Missy has decided to be with Han Hao, and she just made the decision." In the face of the Red Baron, who was constantly undermining me, I was speechless. I could only smile and nod in agreement. "Oh my God, sister-in-law, you've decided to be with Gij Han Hao? Although I still want you to be with Gij, I think it would be good for you to be with Gij Han Hao. Since you've already chosen Han Hao, Suri and I will definitely support you, right, hubby?" Xinyao turned her head and asked Suri. Suri thought for a moment, then looked at me and said, "Missy, you can do whatever you want. I will definitely support you. Just don't let yourself suffer. Han Hao is not bad. As for you and Duanmuke, I can only say that the two of you are not fated to be together." I smiled and nodded, then looked at them and said, "All right, it's all in the past. Don't think too much about it. Aren't I fine now?" Xinyao looked at me and patted my head, saying, "As long as sister-in-law is fine, it's fine. I'm on your side. Actually, I've heard about the Kurosawa situation recently. I didn't expect that Secretary Lee to be like that, causing so many problems for us. Father, mother, and brother were all busy dealing with this matter, but then that person threatened them with a marriage alliance. Sister-in-law, you have to believe that brother definitely didn't want to. It was only because of father that he had no choice but to marry her. I believe that he still has you in his heart." After chatting with them briefly, Suri and Xinyao stayed at my house for dinner and then left. After lunch, I took E for a stroll in the garden. When we got home, the task of taking care of the roses in the garden fell to me. I was very happy to do so. E liked this kind of life very much. She was still young, and it was going to be her 3rd birthday soon. Just in time for her to return to China, I decided to throw a birthday party for her. It was also to let the members of the Red Minghui know of her existence. Ever since I found out that the Duanmuke was going to remarry, I decided to let E participate in the Red Minghui's affairs in the future. No matter what, the Duanmuke was going to get married, so he definitely wouldn't come back to look for us. It was better to be strong in her heart. So what if she had to raise the baby by herself? E was so obedient. She would make me unhappy. I put E on the ground, and she played by the side of the garden. She ran around, but she didn't wander off. She stayed within my line of sight. This was also what I had taught her since she was young. Although she was young, she understood. As I was playing with E, my phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and saw that it was a message from Han Hao. He wrote, "What are you doing? I'm guessing that you're taking E for a stroll in the garden right now." I looked around and didn't see any cameras around. I replied, "Did you install cameras in my house? How did you know what I was doing?" "Because we have telepathy." I received Han Hao's instant reply. Looking at his message, I smiled and glanced at E. She was still running around in the garden. I didn't reply to Han Hao's message. Actually, I didn't know whether I should accept him or reject him. My subconscious already knew that I still had some feelings for Han Hao. Just as my thoughts were running wild, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Han Hao. Just as I was about to answer the call, E ran over. She tugged on my skirt and looked at me. "Mummy, let me answer it. Let me answer it, okay?" I was stunned for a moment, but I still handed the phone to E. E took the phone and answered the call. "Hello, I'm E. It's E. Do you know who I am? I'm Uncle Han Hao." I heard Han Hao's voice. "Hello, Uncle Han Hao." E greeted him politely. "Hello, E. E. Can you give the phone to Mummy and let Mummy talk?" Han Hao's tone was very gentle. E shook her head and said, "No, Uncle, you can talk to me." I was stunned by E's answer and couldn't help but laugh. Han Hao probably didn't expect E to answer him like that. I was also looking forward to seeing how Han Hao would respond. Chapter 209. After a while, Han Hao's voice came from the other end of the line. "E, since you came here, you haven't been to an amusement park, have you? There are a lot of fun things to do there, and there are a lot of children around E's age. Uncle can take E to the amusement park to play. E, do you want to go?" Yes, E wants to go." Unexpectedly, E agreed quickly. Han Hao continued, "Then E has to be a good girl and let Mommy talk, okay?" E nodded furiously. She held the phone in front of me and said anxiously, "Mommy, hurry up and pick up the phone." I nodded awkwardly and picked E up and took the phone. "You're quite good at coaxing children. E is so smart, yet you managed to coax her." I didn't know why, but Han Hao is so gentle to E, which made me quite happy. Han Hao said softly, "Haha, of course. Don't all children like amusement parks? Even though I've only met E once, I like her a lot." "So what you said just now was just to coax her, or are you really going to take her to the amusement park?" "Of course, I'm a man of my word. You don't have to count the days, just tomorrow. I've checked the weather, and it's sunny. The temperature isn't too high either, so it's just right for a trip. You don't have to prepare anything, just bring everything E needs. I'll come pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning, and we'll play for a day. If you're tired, there's a place nearby where you can rest. Don't worry, I've thought everything through." Hearing Han Hao's words, I was stunned. Could it be that he had been planning this for a long time? "Xiao Hao, you haven't been planning this for a long time, have you?" "It doesn't take a long time. When I saw E, I thought she was very cute. You don't usually want to go anywhere, so I thought I'd take her. Of course, I'll take you too." It seemed that his plan was very thorough. I nodded and said, "All right, thank you in advance. Ever since I came back, I really haven't taken E anywhere to play. It's my fault for neglecting her. Thank you for thinking of me." "Xiao Li, you don't have to be polite with me. I've already said that I'll definitely make you my woman. If you become my woman, then E will be my child. Of course, I'll treat her well. You don't have to think about it. Rest well tonight. I'll pick you up tomorrow." Then, Han Hao hung up the phone. I hugged E, and E looked at me and whispered, "Mummy, is that uncle going to take us to the amusement park?" I hugged E and kissed her on the cheek. "Yeah, take E to play with that uncle tomorrow. That uncle will like E a lot. E has to like him too, okay? If Mummy likes him, then I like him too. E hugged me and kissed me back. E's words reminded me that maybe I really should let go of Duanmuke and accept Han Hao's love for me. He was a man I deserved. Now that I had nothing to worry about, it was time for me to pursue my own happiness. The next day, Han Hao appeared at my door early in the morning. When I carried E out, I saw that he was dressed very casually. He wore a white t-shirt, denim shorts, and skateboard shoes. He looked very youthful. Because I was going to take E out to play, I was dressed very casually. I didn't know when E would be carried, so it wasn't convenient for me to wear a skirt. When Han Hao saw that I was carrying a big bag, he quickly walked over to me and took the bag. Then, he quickly walked to the back seat and opened the door. Only then did I see that he had already placed a child seat in the back seat of his car. I raised my head and looked at him in disbelief. He smiled happily. I smiled and placed E in the child seat. Then, I sat in the front passenger seat. We started the journey to the amusement park. After driving for a while, I whispered to him, "Why did you want to install a child seat?" "Because I wanted to take E out to play, so I took the time to buy one. It just so happens that I'll be using it today. It seems that I've been quite proactive. Thank you for the trouble." I was very grateful to Han Hao. If Han Hao was doing all this to please me, then I was very happy. At least he didn't just love me, he also loved E. Just as my imagination was running wild, Han Hao whispered to me, "Oh, right, Xiaoli, there's a black handbag on the back seat. There's a can of milk powder and a pot of boiling hot water. I bought the milk powder from an imported supplies store. My friend recommended it and said that it's good for children to drink, so I bought it. But there needs to be hot water, so I brought some hot water with me this morning. Oh, right, there's a milk bottle too. They're all in that bag. Open up and take a look." Hearing Han Hao say this, I reached out and took the black handbag he was talking about. I opened it up and saw that it really was full of baby supplies. Han Hao drove very steadily, so it shouldn't be a problem to make milk powder in the car. I took out the milk bottle and poured some milk powder and some hot water. Because I couldn't let E drink too hot, I tried my best to control the temperature suitable for her. It took me a long time to adjust the temperature, but I didn't notice at all. While I was focused on making the milk for E, Han Hao was also paying attention to me. I turned around and handed the milk bottle to E. She took the bottle and drank it in big gulps. After watching for a while, I was sure that she was fine, so I turned back. At this time, Han Hao looked at me and said, "Xiaoli, is it so troublesome to make milk powder for the baby?" I nodded and said to him, "This is considered the simplest. But when E was young, it was really difficult. But it's all good now. E can eat with a spoon by herself now, and she can tell me when she needs to go to the bathroom. It's a lot easier." At this time, Han Hao sighed and said softly to me, "Xiaoli, it's been hard on you. I'm very sorry that I wasn't by your side when you were at your toughest. But it's all good now. I can always be by your side. In the future, you can leave the matter of taking care of E to me." Hearing Han Hao say this, I felt very touched. I smiled and asked, "You've never taken care of a baby before. Do you know how to take care of a baby?" "I can learn this slowly. When you mixed the milk powder just now, I already knew how to do it. I just don't know what's the right temperature for the baby. When we get there, I'll go online and look it up. I'll also learn how to take care of the baby today. I'll try my best to make it easier for you. Xiaoli, don't feel pressured. I'll take care of you in the future." Chapter 210. I didn't know why, but when I looked at Han Hao, I suddenly felt that he was different from before. In the past, he had been unwilling to participate in anything, but now he had a sense of responsibility. In my eyes, he was no longer the child who could only endure silently. He had grown up, and I was glad. I hoped that I had made the right choice. I hoped that he could give E and me a happy and warm family. When we arrived at the parking lot of the amusement park, Han Hao parked the car. He got out of the car and put all the things he had prepared into his backpack. Then he put the backpack on, opened the door to the back seat, and carried E. E must have fallen asleep after drinking the milk. She might have just woken up when Han Hao carried her. She still looked sleepy as she lay on Han Hao's shoulder, her small hands tightly wrapped around his neck. When I got out of the car, I happened to see this scene. I was very glad. This scene was just like a father carrying his daughter. It was a very heartwarming scene. Han Hao carried E and walked in front of me. He looked at the dazed me and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "Let's go. We should go in." Then, Han Hao extended his hand in front of me. He looked at me with a smile, indicating that he wanted me to hold his hand. I hesitated for a moment, but still reached out and held his hand. His hand was very warm. Han Hao's smile became even brighter. He held my hand and carried E in his other hand. We walked towards the entrance of the amusement park. After completing the entry procedures, we walked into the amusement park. I saw that Han Hao's backpack was too big, so after we entered the park, I rented a sightseeing car. E was fine too. Han Hao was in charge of driving while I carried E and sat next to him. We chatted and laughed along the way. Han Hao told me a lot of interesting things that had happened in the past 2 years, and I also told him about E's childhood. If there was a place that E liked along the way, we would stop and play with E. As soon as we got out of the car, Han Hao would not let me carry the baby. He would carry E and play with E. I would just stand nearby and take photos of them and watch them play. When we needed to walk, Han Hao would carry E with one hand and hold my hand with the other. It really looked like a family of 3 in an amusement park. When we walked to places with many people, many passers-by would exclaim when they saw us, "Look at how sweet that family of 3 is." Yeah, the man is so handsome, the woman is so beautiful, and the baby is so cute. What a happy family. The people around us all looked at us with envy. I blushed and whispered to Han Hao, "Xiao Hao, isn't this not very good? You're not married yet. It's not good for people to talk about you like this." Han Hao suddenly stopped and looked around at the people around us. Then, he lowered his head to look at me and smiled. He suddenly cupped my face and kissed me deeply on the lips. I was stunned by his sudden kiss and couldn't react. Han Hao's action caused the people around us to cheer. I blushed even harder and quickly pushed Han Hao away. Han Hao looked at me with a smile and reached out to pull me into his arms. The people around us sighed again. I had no choice but to lower my head and lean against Han Hao's chest. Han Hao hugged me with one hand and held me with the other. Even if I didn't see this scene, I knew it would be beautiful. After a while, Han Hao let go of me. He looked at me with a proud expression, as if he had won a battle. I blushed and lowered my head. There are so many people here. This is not good. Everyone is laughing at us. Is it? I feel like they're looking at us with envy. Moreover, didn't a lot of people say that we're a good match? Don't say that they're lying. Strangers' words shouldn't be lies. Han Hao blocked my rebuttal. I didn't even have the slightest leeway to refute. While the two of us were chatting, a man walked over from not too far away. He looked at me and Han Hao and greeted us with a smile. "Hello, I'm a photographer. I just happened to see the two of you being so sweet. I was attracted by your love and couldn't help but press the shutter. These are the photos I just took. I'll give them to you." I looked at the picture. It was a picture of Han Hao holding my face and kissing me. I blushed even harder. I looked at the man and said, "How can you do this? Secretly take pictures of other people. I don't want the picture. Hurry up and destroy it." I knew that I was just looking for an excuse to comfort myself. Han Hao stood in front of me and smiled at the man. He reached out and took the picture. "Not bad. Thank you. I will treasure this. By the way, can I trouble you to take another picture of our family of 3? My wife is a bit shy, so I will have to trouble you." The man was surprised, but then he nodded in agreement. Han Hao put his arm around my shoulder and stood there looking at the camera. I looked at Han Hao with an embarrassed face and said in a low voice, "Xiao Hao, what are you doing? Hurry up and explain to him that we are not a family. People have misunderstood us, and you still want to take pictures. What do you want?" Han, How didn't look at me. He smiled at the camera and said, "Be good. Just think of it as accompanying me to take a picture. Look at the camera." I didn't argue. I turned my head and looked at the camera. Just like that, Han, How and I took another picture together. Although I didn't know why I did it, I couldn't refuse. After walking around half of the amusement park, it was almost lunchtime. Han, How had already prepared everything. He had prepared a picnic cloth and a variety of snacks. We chose a patch of grass that didn't have direct sunlight and had good air circulation. Han, How had prepared many snacks, all of which were my favorite. Han, How had just finished his work when he took E from my arms and a milk bottle from his bag. He squeezed out a little and tasted it before feeding E. He looked at my worried face and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, I've kept this milk in an incubator. The temperature hasn't changed. I just tested it, and it's just right for the baby. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Oh, by the way, I also prepared osmanthus cake for you. It's your favorite. Eat more." After he finished speaking, Han, How took out a paper box from his bag. He opened it and saw osmanthus cake inside. It wasn't the kind that could be bought outside. It was obviously handmade. I looked up at Han, How. He was holding E and comforting her while holding the milk bottle so that she wouldn't choke on the milk. He looked even more professional than me. I said to Han, How, Xiao Hao, you like E a lot, don't you? You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.